Hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to another episode of Quran Lessons for the Infidel. We have the usual assortment here today. And Bogey, go ahead, take it away, please.
Thank you very much. We're missing Diana today.
Yeah, we're missing a couple of people.
Yep. So
I don't think Diana will be able to connect when Lebanon don't have electricity at all.
That's the situation.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know if they resolved it, but a couple of days ago, they run out of fuel to run the generator at one of their power plants, so they don't have electricity.
Oops, that makes operating a phone very difficult.
Okay.
All right. Well, today we're going to discuss Surah 33 and Surah 60, according to the itinerary, in the chronological order. And I'm going to start with Surah 33, which is Surah Al-Ahzab, which is the parties as in political parties. Literally, the word is used this way to describe political party, aka Hizb, right? Bears notation, Hizballah, for example, right? The party of Allah. This surah has two abrogations, not too bad. 33:48 is abrogated by 9:5, as we will see later. And 33:52 is abrogated by 33:50, which is kind of like, what? How? No, it's actually one is more like they need to be read together rather than one overwriting the other. These two verses speak about the same thing and say almost the same details. So we will suss this out as we get there. My first note on 33 is with verse 4, unless somebody wants to say something before that.
Go ahead.
Okay, 33:4. What the translation missed here is that adopted sons and daughters are not one's own and should never be treated so.
Discrimination. You mean your own kids are not your own kids? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, your own adopted kids are not your own kids. This is going to come up in discrimination in inheritance, in marrying of one's adopted son's wife, specifically, and even worse, become a possibility. Unlike what we have here, what is the adopted children are treated exactly like one's own, because I think that's a better way of dealing with this. And I'm sure the panel will have more to say about this one.
Was it ever, not prohibited to call your adoptive sons your own? Did it change at some point?
Well, here in the West, and pretty much in all the countries that are not particularly Islamic, if you adopt some children, they get to take your name and they become your children legally, right? So if your child marries a woman, you can't marry that woman because she was the wife of your son. Or if your daughter marries a man, well, you can't marry that man because he was the husband of your daughter, right? So adoption in most cases leads to actual biological like family membership. Not in Islamic countries. you're not even allowed to take the name of your adopting father, which leads to some weird situation in the Islamic world where somebody is adopted and he does not have the same family name, right?
Oh,
So all that take care of the orphans literally evaporates in this surah in terms of doing good to the orphans.
um, one thing to note though is before Muhammad, this was normal. You could call your children, I mean, you could call your adopted children your sons, and Muhammad did that himself to his, what was his
Right,
name? Yeah,
exactly, because it
Said?
it
yeah,
was it was actually the norm until Muhammad came and changed it to this. Like in the Jahiliyyah, people adopted these kids and they became a full-fledged member of that family. They took up the name, they inherited, like if there are any biological sons or daughters they had, they inherited. And don't tell me women didn't inherit, because just look at the wife of Muhammad. She was a rich woman who inherited the wealth of her husband. So women did inherit, and that was well before Islam. Um,
Yeah, for the people that are watching, I just want to make a quick recap of what's being said here. Well, I think it might be mentioned in a further down the line, but this guy Said, he was an adoptive son of Muhammad.
Yazid.
S which
Yazid?
Said?
Yazid?
It says Said in my translation.
Um, we might be talking about different
I
adopted
think
sons.
you are. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm not familiar with either name.
It is actually mentioned in the Quran, and it's Zayd, and his
It,
wife's name is Zainab, by the way.
yes, yes. In
Yeah,
Spanish, it says Said.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
So,
Wrong Spanish translation.
It doesn't
all right. So,
matter.
all right, all right.
It does. It's not germane. It's fine. Whatever they called him, they called him. He cannot be the son of
All
Muhammad.
right, well, so
It cannot be Allah.
let him make his point.
Right. So, okay. So this guy, he was purchased by Hadija, his wife, originally as a servant, and then the story about this guy Saeed, or whatever his name is that is very very similar to that of what was his name, the guy in Egypt that they sold, his brothers sold in as a
Yusuf,
Yusuf.
Joseph.
Yeah, right, Yusuf. So it's very similar to that. Their parents, his uncle and father, I think, then later found him, like further down the line during a Hajj pilgrimage, and they wanted to buy him back, but Muhammad said, "Okay, it's up to Said if he wants to return or not." And the story says that he preferred to remain as in companion with Muhammad. And that day he announced that he was his son, but he wasn't really his son. Everybody understood that he was his son, but he wasn't really his son. It had to be clarified later on by this surah that he was adoptive, not biological.
Well,
That's
we know, yeah, from the story is that he'd been captured, sold to slavery as a little servant kid, and when the reason Muhammad adopted him is his dad in the story came to claim him. So his dad came to him and said, "Well, we are your family. We want to take you back home." And he said, "No, this guy have been nice to me, and I want to stay with him." Talking about Muhammad, uh, foreshadowing for the future. But he then his dad basically said, "Okay, if you want to stay, if he's gonna keep you as his son, you will stay, not as a slave." So Muhammad basically took him outside, which is one of the practices. Take them to this little bit of a approach, a little bit of a high place in Mecca, so where people
balcony.
will, not a balcony, it's more like an opening in the middle of the city. It's like a um I'm trying to remember. It's public place basically. It's somewhere where people meet and talk. And anyway, and he announced to everyone that Zayd is his son, that he will inherit from him, and I will inherit from him. So it's like if he dies, I will inherit from him, and I die, he will inherit me. And after that, he become. They didn't even call him Zayd bin Harith, which is like calling him to his dad's name. They start calling him Zayd bin Muhammad, Zayd the son of Muhammad. And he lived like that until he moved to Medina and until he was old enough to get married, and actually got married. And then when we come to the story up in the verses, we'll talk about it probably what happened to that. Why did this adoption got canceled? Because there is a reason behind it, and a lot of Muslims don't like to talk about why is it, and the action of the adoption ended because of one thing, and we will come to it in these verses.
Yeah. So it was habit, and it was correctly the habit that if you adopted somebody, they became a full member of your family as your own offspring. This is what we do today in the West, where I guess better minds prevailed. And they don't do it in Islamic countries because of what's in this surah today. Um, it's terrible. I think it's not beneficial to anybody to do it this way, but this is what the Quran legislates. 33:5 is my next note.
All right.
So adopted kids cannot bear the names of their adopting parents. I'm guessing even in case of the parent name not being known. And there are cases where people have no father name attached to their first name. So there are people who are called XXY Ibn Abi. He's the son of his father, and the father is not named, right?
Yeah, it also talks about the how women are supposed to be married in this ayah. Like it's okay for Muhammad to have married the ex-wife of his son, but well, at least in my version, it says that the other way around is a no. It's frowned upon. Nobody can marry an ex-wife of Muhammad.
Oh yeah, well that's a different prohibition. Yes.
Well, I'm
I
glad
really
they
don't-
put that down in the law books 1,400 years later.
Yeah. So it's insignificant because it only applies to Muhammad and his wife. So we will come to that later. This surah is chock full of legislation.
Apparently, Muhammad was worried about, I don't know what, comparisons?
I don't know. Well, maybe somebody was
My
making.
understanding is he was probably worried about what the bloodlines. What's the word? Like contaminating the bloodline or something.
We will talk about the blood night question later on because there's a verse about it.
I would say there's in verse 5 it says don't call them by the wrong name unless like it's bad for you to call them by their bad name. So basically, don't dead name people
Well, yeah.
and use their correct pronouns. It's in the Quran.
Yeah. So
Oh,
it
hold
is
on.
very, very unfair towards adopted children with or without known biological parents. With all of the talking about taking care of the orphans and so, the Quran really goes out on a limb and throws them under the bus here. And these verses are not abrogated.
Hold on. Are you sure? Is there not an abrogation in 58.3? I have it in my notes.
No.
But not for that, but for
This is
the
60.
treatment of women.
This is not 58. This is 60.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay. I must have missed it.
Yes. You're looking at the wrong abrogation.
Yeah. Okay.
But I need to switch mine to
My
60
bad.
here. No, that's okay. That's okay. The point is valid. It's just not in this surah. not these verses. Okay, 33:6. The wives of Muhammad are considered mothers of all other Muslims. You can't marry your mother. That's the main idea here. So they cannot remarry after Muhammad since they are considered a mother to all everyone else.
I didn't even have. I couldn't even. That interpretation never even entered my mind.
It is just like considering the first lady the mother of all Americans. So Melania cannot remarry after. Right? It would suck for being Melania after that, but there you go.
Yeah, there's looking at Aaron's notes. Well, actually, before I even looked at them, in this particular surah, this is one of those examples where the versions are drastically different. So, I mean, they do tell the same, but in my case, the Spanish version is a lot more clear, a lot more extensive, with like more footnotes, more examples. So there's a lot of misinterpretation that can happen if you're only reading it in English. So
Yes. And this is something that Aaron is obviously aware of, and he's looking at multiple translations when he writes his notes. And it does show in the quality of the interpretation that he posts on the internet. So I strongly encourage that you read that.
There used to be a website, Biola, that unfortunately just went down a year ago, that would allow you to read 3 different translations of the Bible at once, and you could pick any 3. They were like 30 different versions of the Bible that you could pick from. But you select any 3, and you can read those 3 at once. So you'd have them all 3 side by side, reading the same verse, and it was remarkable how reading the Bible that way gave you a completely different view.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes down to what you're forbidden to eat.
Like the important things.
Aaron, you want to check out Bible Hub? It has even more versions side by side for every verse.
All right, will do.
Yeah. So wouldn't it have been much easier and simpler for Zayd to be Zayd ibn Muhammad, and just leave him happy the way he is? He's okay. He's a happy kid. He's got a new dad. He's happy with the new dad. Just leave it. It's fine. It's better, right? Anyways.
Yeah, I don't think verses 6 is taken as instruction to marry the wives of Muhammad.
No, it's a prohibition against marrying
there
wives.
is a very clear verse that says you are not allowed to hurt the prophet and to marry his wives after his death.
Yes.
That's been taken just metaphor. It's not the instruction itself. Just we need to clear this.
Yes, you're
yes,
right.
I agree with.
And because it's not a prohibitive instruction, yes, but then who gets to marry their mother? Nobody, right?
Yeah, well, in my version it clarifies that the metaphor is that they are supposed the wives of Muhammad are supposed to be on a higher standard. They are more highly viewed. They are sort of an example, so it makes them like a little bit more sacred or something like that.
Yes, in general, what the wives of Muhammad will end up saying regarding what Muhammad's saying is second only to Muhammad saying it. So they are considered very high as information sources as to what Muhammad said and what he thought about the religion at the time. So yes, they are considered very highly here. So let's not make that mistake of saying, oh, they are just being nullified here. Okay, 33:23 is my next note, unless somebody has something before that.
I have one quick question. Like I mentioned, my version gets very different in this surah. Mm-hmm. So there's a footnote, and I wanted you guys' take on this. It might be a case of the interpretation reading too much into it, or not. But it said that Muhammad said None of you have complete faith until you love me more than you love your sons, your fathers, or your mothers, or anybody else around you. Now that sounds eerily familiar, but I want to know if that's the case. That's a
It does
footnote.
sound eerily familiar, doesn't it?
Yep.
But this is not a verse. This is a hadith.
Right. It's just mentioned in a footnote. It's not here, but I was.
No, this is definitely a hadith.
Yeah.
None of you will be a true believer unless I am more beloved to him more than his money, his family, and himself. That's hadith.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I usually don't get into hadiths. It's a nightmare to go
Yeah.
through them.
Right, and that's one of the best reasons to avoid it in discussions, because it's a never-ending rabbit hole that leads nowhere, basically. Okay, so 23 it is then. This is an interesting verse, often quoted when religious person dies, mostly in the name of Allah. Also note it's only mentioned men explicitly. Let's look at 33:23.
You want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Yeah. There are men among the believers who honored their pledge to God. Some of them have fulfilled it by death, and some are still waiting. They have not changed in the least.
Yes.
I don't know how to interpret that.
So what's the question here?
No, it's just like this is a verse worth a remark, as وَمِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ رِجَالٌ صَدَقُوا مَا عَاهَدُوا اللَّهَ عَلَيْهِ yada yada yada. Right. So it mentions that from the believers there are men who truly fulfilled what they promised Allah. Right.
That they're waiting in line, right?
فَمِنْهُمْ
their
مَنْ
turn.
قَضَى فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى. Some of them have died, and some of them are waiting to die, and they will not change.
This is just an encouragement,
Right.
an emotional attachment that true believer, even they do wait, they're patient. All they would like to do is they try to preserve, perseverant to their faith, but even that they will wait to die in good, responding to Allah. That's just a matter of
Yes.
announcement and encouragement.
Yes, and it is often quoted in this particular situation. So yeah, that's why I brought it up. Like it doesn't show in the translation that this is a very quoted verse.
One of the reasons is, if you read the previous verses, there's during this battle, because it talks about this battle when there's a coalition of tribes with Quraysh went to Muhammad and attacked them and kind of besieged the city until they left. But what happened is a lot of Muhammad's people who were with him, he said, they were like, we better go check our houses because there was a rumor that there was a breach somewhere. So, and a lot of people died on the siege, saying that they didn't die in actual fighting. They were just standing guard and got hit by an arrow or something like this. So they don't really count, or you're just wasting our lives. And here, just basically, God saying that if you fought, there is some people who are truly like honest, because he was talking about the dishonest before that, the munafiqeen and mushrikeen before that. So now he's talking about those good people. One of the most quoted, like Bogi was right about like quoting during people's dying and stuff. But this verse is one of the favorite verses for the fundamentalist Muslims, because they will use it as a sign that there is some truth in their claim, and they are standing. They don't change. They're fundamentalists. They don't change, because if you read the end of that verse, and they don't change. So that's one of the reasons they like it a lot. They like it because some died, some didn't, and they don't change. The main thing in their ideas and their mind do not change their religion.
Is this the same guys that were trying to avoid combat? Like, that is the same
There
thing.
is, yes, there was a guy, a main guy that kind of lead them or tried to lead them, um, but um, it's a group of people that lived because at that time in Muhammad's Medina there were a group of people who just adopted his religion without really believing in it. It just that well he's the new leader, we're just gonna do what he wanna say and what he's wanna do, stuff like this. So it's like our tribe believes in him, so we will believe in him. So yeah.
Alrighty. Next note is 25. Please read your notes.
All right, on 25, God sent back the believers along with their rage. They gained no benefit and spared the believers from fighting. He is strong and mighty. And translator Abdel Halim says that this refers to the sandstorm that caused the believers to go back without success. That is at least the sort of thing a medieval Arab should expect his God to do, a minimum of, at a minimum every time. Of course, if God had chosen to reveal his truth to the unbelievers directly and personally, that would have been a far better strategy.
Yeah, this is in the trench battle,
Yes.
where around 10,000 of the unbelievers facing 3,000 of the believer in Medina. And I think after they have put a siege on them for around 25 days, that's what the story tells us, what the heritage tells us. They faced a real bad sandstorm. They dispersed and they just managed to get whatever they can and flee. That's what happened.
Where does the thing about hermit crabs come from? Is that
You had a previous note about what if he turned them into hermit crabs, and I like that better.
okay?
Instead of the sandstorm thingy.
Got it.
Why hermit crabs?
Like
That's okay.
when Allah makes your enemies vanish, right? Now here
Yeah,
Allah
I
uses
was quoting from an old movie.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now if he turned all the enemy armies into hermit crabs, now that would have been a scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my note about the hermit crabs here. 33:28 to 33:34.
Before going to 28, 26 and 27,
Yes.
it talks about during that battle that talks about
Bani Qurayza.
yeah, and the Jewish tribes that aided the other people against Muhammad. So what happened to them? He said, "You killed some of them, and you have captured some of them." And he's talking about those tribes, and then you took their land, their money, and you took some land you didn't capture it. So it's not just you have the actual position of the land you own, you took more. And it's one of those claims that's like, oh, you did so good, you're gonna get candy next week, and next week comes and there's no candy.
Yeah. Is this the part where Muhammad gets to take the wife of the Jewish tribe leader?
No, that's in in Khaybar.
Okay, that's a different one.
It's
Okay.
later on, yeah.
Okay, so that didn't happen yet.
Not
The
yet.
tribe named Banu Qurayza, he surrendered them, or he surrounded them for around 25 to 30 days. They offered to give up everything just to leave with themselves, with their souls. What the Arab says, let us leave just with our souls. All we need just to get away with ourselves. He refused that, and he appointed Sa'd ibn Mu'az as the judge to go and talk to them and cast a verdict. The verdict was kill all the men, take the women and the children as prisoners. Either you sell them as a captive or you keep them as prisoners. And Muhammad says, yes, that is what Allah basically says. And Muhammad agrees with that. And actually, the story goes Well, what we were told, between 700 to 900 Jews were executed in one day. And the way, the measures to execute men was to look at the pubic hair. Anyone who has pubic hair need to be killed. The one who has no pubic hair, they were saved as prisoners. That's what the story, that's what it was told, precisely as all the Sunni and Shia had agreed upon.
Okay, and that's your advertisement for Manscaped.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Should have. But electricity wasn't invented, so no luck. Okay, 3328 and 3334 block. Indeed, this block is specific to the wives of Muhammad. Interesting problem. How do you double an infinity of hell fire torture? Asking for a friend. So, any comments between 28 and 34 regarding the specific instructions about wives of Muhammad in this
Yeah.
block?
As I understand, Mohammed opted for a poor lifestyle despite being a leader, and that's why his wives were asking for more money, but he opted for humility. Is that so? That's in Ayah 28.
Um,
That's why he offered friendly divorce, is what I have.
Yeah, I don't see it that way. It's basically an instruction that unless they done something really nasty, probably had relations with some other men or something like that. But if you want the lower life, the here and now kind of life perks and benefits, he could divorce them, and that's okay. And it says nice divorce, so it's like she gets her money back and whatnot. But I don't think that that is particular a commentary on the lifestyle of Muhammad. It's more of a commentary. Are you going to stick with the leader and do what the leader thing is doing, or are you going to leave him? Mind you, if he divorces her, she still can't remarry after him. So it's not like a perk for her to divorce him.
The reason for this ayah, what is being said, as what's the reason for it to be revealed, Aisha asked Muhammad for a bit of enjoyment in life. They didn't say what is that. She need to have a little bit more of the life of her surrounding.
She wanted to go visit Disney, maybe.
Yeah, and or they're saying, or she asked for extra money or something different. That's what the Arabic says, the interpretation. And then Muhammad left his wives for around 1 month. And then he came back with this ayah that he says, if you need to do that, I'll do that. But God, my God, would replace me with all of you altogether. And that was the reason for this verse.
Yeah, and one of the things to remember here, the guy is in his mid-50s, and he's married to this teenager.
Wait. She is like probably like 10-ish.
I'm trying to remember exactly because she probably about 13 by that time, or maybe 12.
I think
so.
12, 10, 12, maybe. I don't
somewhere there. I'm not sure exactly.
Remember, when Muhammad died at 60 something, she turned 18.
Yes. So, and he had multiple other wives at the same time. So, when I'm guessing the poor kid just wanted to go play with her friends, and he said no, because you're not allowed to go outside. Because when you read Ayah 33, it says stay at home, don't go. So probably she wanted to go play outside, on the street with the rest of the kids, and he said no.
Yeah.
Most likely that was it's a probability. Most likely, yes.
Yeah. She
I
wanted a
believe
camel. She wanted a camel with go fast strips.
Yeah,
by this time, if you include Zainab, Muhammad had 5 wives.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Are we counting that right? Okay.
What is the
I don't-
question about including Zainab? Is it that she's the
Uh,
newest?
Yeah, she'll
Okay.
come up later on.
Well, Zainab should come up later. This surah, and
Okay.
Zainab would be the ex-wife of his son Zaid.
Gotcha.
Don't give
Well,
spoilers. Just
But no
wait.
spoilers, exactly. Right. No spoilers.
We're
It's
coming to that. It's a fascinating story, by the way.
Yes, it is very much so.
This I also mentions the zakat. That's tithing, right?
Yes. That's
Okay.
the zakat. It's the Islamic tax.
As
Tithing
opposed
is-
to jizya.
Jizya is also the Islamic tax for non-Muslims.
Zakat
Right, but-
and jizya are different, totally different.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
They are different.
Jizya is from outsiders, and the zakat is from within your group.
Yeah, and both of them are paid mandatorily, and they are paid annually. The sadaqah, however, which is the donations, is different.
Sorry, zakat is not mandatory. It is an instruction from God, but nobody seeks or give you or may punish you if you don't do it. It's only
Oh, they do, Talal. Abu Bakr and Umar were arguing about that concept after Muhammad's death, because there were some tribes that still Muslim, but they didn't give the zakat to Abu Bakr.
yeah.
in
Banu
Medina?
Hanifa.
Yes.
Banu Hanifa.
Yeah, and they said that if they don't give the zakat, they are not Muslims.
Yeah.
And yeah, and zakat is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. So
I will consider it mandatory.
I do. There is, so it depends on how much money you have and what type of zakah. If you go into the fiqh of it and how to divide it, but it is like if you have the money, if you have a lot of money sitting around not being used, they will come and collect the is it the 2.5%?
Yes,
I think-
it is.
well, yeah.
It is.
The
I'm
quarter
trying-
of the 10th, yes.
Yes.
I'm trying to clarify one important thing. When Banu Hanifa denied paying the zakat because Muhammad died, they were denying one of the pillar. You're right. It's not bad denying to pay. They denied altogether. We're not going to acknowledge such thing. And that's what happened. But as far as if we say mandatory, it's not like a tax. If you don't pay it, the law will be after you.
Well,
You
it
don't
is.
think.
It is because it's
Anyway,
it's
no, I disagree. I disagree
Okay.
because you cannot pay the zakah. You still be Muslim. But if announced, I'm not going to pay it, then it's a different story.
Okay.
So if you stop praying, then it's in the same level because these are the 5 pillars of Islam.
Yeah, I got to throw this in there because it just came in timely. Super chat, Reverend Dr. Emperor, 56 Mexican pesos says, Aaron, here is my zakat to Falcor. That's my dog. May he not raid my village, all wise, almighty Falcor. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right. Falcor, the messenger of Allah. All right.
So you can opt to not pay it.
I
Or-
don't think there's an option not to pay
They-
the zakat.
Okay, there is 2 ways to pay it. They traditionally there is basically the Islamic government will come and collect the money from you. That's what's happening right now in Saudi Arabia. That's how they do it. They have a place specially for it. Or you could give it like you take the 2% and you have 2 people witnessing that you gave it out to the poor or to the specific ways that you could give it out to without actually giving it to the government or the emir of that place. So, but yeah, you cannot say I'm not gonna give my zakah at all. Some people, if you go to some schools of fiqh, they say that you could if you could say I will pay it next year, or you could pay it early, but you cannot say that you, as a Muslim, you cannot say I'm not paying it all together.
Yeah,
And you can say it, and you can say, I have already paid it, and they do not have to check on that for you.
Yeah,
well, they do. So,
but
anyways, let's not waste more time. I think it's a tax, and you're mandated to pay it as a Muslim, unless you're too poor and you're not supposed to pay it at that point. Um, do they check? I think they definitely check now, and they definitely checked a long time ago as well. So, I don't see that a zakah is something that is not mandatory. Sadaqah is not, but the zakat is pretty much mandatory, especially if you had enough for a nisab, and if you reach the nisab, you absolutely must pay the zakat. Okay, next one, 3335. Notable, this is actually a long verse, but notable language in this rather long verse is the usage of the male and female pronouns for every deed type mentioned. And thus, forgiveness, this is a commentary to Aaron's notes, and thus, forgiveness is still needed for, let's say, bad thoughts and ideas, even if you did all
Sorry,
the
which
good.
one you reading? 33?
35.
Okay.
Okay. So, uh, it's an interesting language for starters, like why this way, right? You could have just said it simply, but whatever. And at the end it says, and they get forgiveness. And Aaron was going like, well, why do you need to forgive good deeds? Well, the forgiveness isn't for the good deeds. The forgiveness is for the potentially bad deeds they didn't do. They still need forgiveness for that. Bad thoughts and ideas would still need the forgiveness, and it is offered in this verse as a value-added service.
Yeah.
Thought crimes.
Thought crimes, exactly. I mean, you could think about, a guy you just saw on the road, and you say, "Oh, that would be such a nice guy," right? That's a bad thought, and you could do all the good things here, still have that bad thought. You still need forgiveness for that one.
Right. Throughout this surah, it keeps reminding the reader that Allah knows what you're hiding
Exactly.
in your mind.
Yeah, that's the thoughts you thought, and they weren't pure and holy. Okay, 3336, unless somebody has something to add to this.
35, I would say incentive. They do not need to be forgiven, but basically, if you are following that path, you would expect to be forgiven. As the forgiveness here is coming in the sense of a good incentive, is a reward more than you must or you need to,
Yes, I agree with that understanding to it. It's a value-added service. You still have that, so hey, you might sin a little here and there, but we're going to be fine.
Correct.
36, I'm not disagreeing with what Aaron said, and we would need Aaron for that.
What is the note? Sorry,
What did he say?
The note is when God and his messenger have decided on a matter that concerns the Muslims, it is not fitting for any believing man or woman to claim freedom of choice. You can't think for yourself after that. Whoever disobeys God and his messenger will go astray, aka will be regarded as non-Muslim after a while. So yeah, you're not allowed to disagree after things are said in the Quran, per se.
That verse reminds me a story about Umar.
Yeah.
I don't know
Which
if you
one?
remember, but I think two people. Yeah, there were two people who were disagreeing about something, and they went to Muhammad to judge between them. something related to some water fountain. I forgot. And Muhammad judged in favor of one of them, but the other person was not happy with Muhammad's judgment, so they went to Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr said, "Well, Muhammad's already judged, so I have no say in this," and he left. So then they went to Umar, and Umar asked the first person. He's like, "We went to Muhammad, and Muhammad judged for us, and he decided that I was right." And then Umar confirmed it with the second guy, and he's like, "Yes, Muhammad judged, and I disagree with him." So Umar went back into his house, took his sword out, came back, and killed the man.
There you go.
Really?
Yeah. Later, when Muhammad heard about this, he pretty much said the same thing in this verse. Like, when he judges something, you cannot. Yeah.
Okay, so 33, 37 is the next one. The doozy. So Muhammad marries the divorced wife of his adopted son. And this verse would have applied to Muhammad only. Read along with 4404 allows this to all Muslims. Also known, Zayd is mentioned by name here. Zainab, his wife, is not. And actually, the story around this is a little bit more sordid than that. Let's have a discussion on this. Muhammad, Zayd's wife, and why did he want to marry her? Because the story is actually the other way around, right?
Was it her niece, or I had a bit of a head scratching when I got here because again, like it happened with Miriam, I was trying to put together the tree, the family tree, and I'm not sure. Was this her niece or
His
or
niece,
her cousin?
his niece, but Zayd is an adopted son of Muhammad.
Right. So
And for a long time, people around the area would call him Zayd ibn Muhammad, right? He's adopted son of a guy. He took up the family name. And then he grew up and he married Zainab, who was his niece, which is okay. You can do that, right?
she's the daughter of Hakim, right?
Right.
The
So-
guy
so-
who was born inside the Kaaba.
I don't know the details of Zainab's family tree, but what I know is that Zayd married her and she was a particularly beautiful woman. And then Muhammad wanted to marry Zainab, but she was married to his son, so he couldn't.
Well, my version says that they were already divorced when he wanted to marry her.
No,
That's why my version says they
No,
were
no.
divorced, and then he wanted to
They
marry.
were divorced and then he married her, but the want happened before that.
Really?
Yes, the fact that 20 minutes ago, the verse said, your sons, your adopted sons are not your sons, and they don't supposed to take your name, is a prelude to this verse that says, well, no, you can now marry his wife once he divorces her.
So he
Because
caused
he's no
them
longer
to
his son.
divorce, or
He caused them to divorce. He put pressure on his adopted son, took his family name back, had her divorce her, and then married his wife.
Initially, it wasn't a happy marriage. I mean, they didn't. When Zainab came to Medina, Zainab was from a bit of a high standing family in Mecca. So when Muhammad proposed to Zainab that she marry his adopted son, Zainab wasn't too happy about it because he was basically used to be a slave, right? So it was a different status. But Zainab married him either way because, well, Muhammad kind of wanted it to happen. So their marriage was already rocky, and Muhammad was rocking the boat even further so that he would get divorced.
Yeah, and when you read it in this,
I get that, But then I have a problem with it in two terms. One of them is there's a lot of illusion here, and post hoc adjusting the facts to what happened later. Just like Muhammad is never gonna be the father of any man of you, the verse that will come later, and we will see it, because Muhammad is supposed to be the last prophet, so he can't have male offspring to inherit the prophethood. So it's the story is written backwards, forwards for you, and now you're seeing it this way. I and Zainab, if she wanted better lifestyle with the marriage to Muhammad, well, two verses ago, Muhammad says, no, we will live in a poor lifestyle anyways, and if you don't like it, I'll divorce you. So that could not have been the motivation for Dana, because she's already known, would have known by then that, yeah, good lifestyle isn't gonna be happening in Muhammad's house, right? So the story is kind of weak sauce, I think. I think what happened is Muhammad looked at Zainab. He said, "No, I want that woman," and he
Yeah, he's
pressured
not a
his
very good host either.
and he pressured his adopted son and took the family name back from him. And now it becomes the tradition in Islam: no family name for adopted sons out of that.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
the
and
common consensus that he did manage. He went to ask for Zayd, and that's what the common consensus. And he knocked. Zainab opened, and she was at that time having a bath or cleaning herself half naked. He saw herself, and he said, "Oh my God, what a beauty!" In a sense, he came back, and then he orchestrate all that. First of all, he need to get rid of that adoption because it's a big shame in the Arab tradition to marry an ex-wife of adopted son. So he got him and Zayd discussed it, and Zayd, because he was basically so loyal to Muhammad, said, "If you do wish to have my wife or to have Zainab, it's all yours." And then he went there, and he managed to get that verse. He says, when Zayd finished with her, God Himself has assigned her to you. So we had two issues. First of all, that Muhammad is not the father of any of you, so he abolished the adoption. The second one, he managed to get her married to him in the kingdom heaven, okay, in the heaven kingdom, and that's that's what the story. That's how we orchestrate both of them.
and you could tell from reading the verse here in 37. It says that even you were playing the game to pretend that you didn't want her, and you told your son, or you told him to keep your wife, don't divorce your wife for me, because people were talking about him at that time, like, look at that, Muhammad want his daughter-in-law, like, what kind of man is he? And then that's why, see, one of the things that every Muslim gonna try to pretend to be, that Muhammad is the best human being. And then we hear and see stories like this, where people in his generation, people around him saying, the fuck is he doing? You know? It's like, this is stuff that we don't do. And the more you read about those stories, the more you see that Muhammad was nothing more than just a cult leader. And he acted exactly how cult leaders today act. So you see a cult leader with all those scandals and all those problems that we have today, exactly happened in Muhammad's time, and people around him were like, why? And then what happens to him? His excuse? Oh, God is gonna talk to me. God is telling me to do it because God told me. Why do you want to marry that 6-year-old? Because God told me. Why do you want to marry your son's your daughter-in-law? Because God told me. It's the best excuse in the world.
We need to link this very important point here. I think it's important. We need to link verse 36 when he says that there is no a believer should refuse what God and Muhammad has ordered them to do. It is basically the instruction. When Muhammad went to Zainab, he didn't know her before, and he said, "You need to." Well, the word used, "You need to make love to Zayd." without knowing him. That's he talked to her through some media or behind a curtain or whatever, and she said, "No, I'm not doing that," and she refused basically to take Zayd. And that's what they said. This verse came to say, if Muhammad asks you to do that, so basically that's instruction from God and Muhammad, so do it. So we need the irony here. He himself, without knowing how beautiful Zainab before, he instructed her to take Zayd. Then everything is reversed. Then we see the link between them here. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to. No, go ahead, Turtle.
No, it's fine.
I just want to mention that it's almost shocking that how the way I was taught all of these things in my case, by the Center of Islamic Studies, I keep getting flowers thrown at Muhammad, like getting all these good aspects of him. Like, for example, the thing I mentioned before, that he, despite being a leader, he opted for having a poor lifestyle and being simple. But these other things are not mentioned. Like
I've heard of two excuses that Muslims give to justify this. One of them is that Muhammad had to do this because he needed to show us that it's okay to marry our adopted children's wives. The second excuse was that Muhammad did it because he kind of matchmade those two before, right? Zainab and Zayd. So he felt bad because they divorced, so he tried to make Zainab happy again by marrying her. Those are the best Islamic apology.
The second excuse is the most common one. The second excuse is that he elevated her dignity by really being a prophet, offered him to her, and then she would not get hurt so much after she divorced or she left Zayd. That's the most excuses that have been given. You're right.
Yep, excuses. I mean, this is soap opera level shenanigans in 3337. Right there, it would write a nice little soap opera for you.
He really liked Zainab, though. There's a hadith where Muhammad was walking on the street. I can give you the number. Sahih Muslim 1403a. Muhammad was walking on the street and he saw a really pretty lady, and she kind of turned him on. So he rushed back home and had sex with Zainab immediately.
Wow.
He went back to where his companions were and said, "Oh people, if you feel lust, go have intercourse with your women."
It's not like the women are able to say no.
One thing. Yeah, one thing. When he found Zainab, she was processing some hide. So she wasn't even in the best. She was working, doing her thing. And here he comes watching, and she was processing hide. And if you ever learned anything about processing hide in the olden days, they used urine. So it wasn't the best situation at all. So here's a point for you. Muhammad interrupted the process, and he didn't care that much about it. He just needed to do his business and get it done.
Yeah, but what he said here is not related. That was hadith, a true hadith. Muhammad saw a nice woman passing by. He went in and he had sex with one of his wives. He came out and he says, if any of you has seen any woman have sex with your wife to take you away from committing zina or something like this, okay? That's true hadith.
Wow. Okay, so whatever. Since you have no marital rape in Islam, that would stand. Anyways, 3348.
Yeah, I've got a question I've got to probably address. And I also want to, I had to run out because the dogs are barked at the backyard. I opened the door and I only have two of them. Where did the big third one go?
Did Falcor escape again?
Again, yes.
Wow.
It's been months that he's been trapped in the backyard. I've built all these barricades around the backyard. He couldn't possibly get out. Months he hasn't been able to get out. How he got out today, I don't know. But neighbors are doing construction in their backyard, and he's constantly trying to climb the fence. I see him doing it all the time. And I guess he broke something down. I didn't have time to inspect it. But anyway, I freak out You guys are talking. I go jump in the truck and I go drive around the block a couple times. I come back frustrated. I'm going to jump back in the show, and he's waiting in the driveway.
Huh.
Lucky you.
Oh, Aaron.
Bring him inside. Bring him inside. Let him have the show.
So
There's
I
a-
apologize for that, but he's here now, and I can stop panicking.
There's
So,
a question, by the way.
The
Correct.
question was from Ishaq Ibrahim. It says, if prophet likes a woman, her husband must divorce her for the prophet. This is privilege 10 of 16 given to the prophet only. Quran 33:50. And then Tafsir reference, I guess. What do you guys say about that?
I would like.
No,
Sorry,
don't
I would like to say, let's find out why Allah Himself has given a privilege to a particular man called Muhammad, and he sustained, and he has not given privilege to millions of people who in need of women more than Muhammad. That's what I would say. What exactly the excuse to have Muhammad as privileged? That's what I would say.
Yeah, we will get to 33:50 in 2 verses. So let's go to 33:48 first. It's abrogated by 9:5, so we all know what that means.
Wait, which one? 48?
48.
I have a quick question on 40.
Okay.
I have again discrepancies between versions. One of them says 3 dead sons, other says 4 dead sons. So which one is it?
33:40 is an important verse. Sorry. I skipped 33:40. Okay, sorry.
33:40.
It's 33:40. Yes. So Muhammad is not the father of any male offspring.
Wait, is that sound coming from someone?
There's a cat.
No, that's a parrot.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
It's Aaron's parrot.
I got the entire species wrong.
Yeah, he likes to imitate cats or something. I don't know.
All right. So 33:40 is a very interesting verse, and I have a commentary about it. Aaron, you might want to read it.
Okay, 33:40.
You want me to read it in Arabic or sorry, the comment? You read it
All right,
comment?
so 40. Muhammad is not the father of any of you men. He is God's messenger and the seal of the prophets. God knows everything.
Okay, so this is an interesting post hoc statement about Muhammad. The claim that Muhammad is the last prophet is actually building on this verse in a way. So Muhammad is not the father of any male offspring, to be more accurate here. This is a statement from the Quran. And this is to fulfill the claim that he is the final prophet, because if he had a male offspring, that offspring could potentially become a prophet later on. If there's a bloodline continuation with males in it from Muhammad, those could potentially become prophet later on. And they want to cut this claim off. So someone might claim to be a prophet after Muhammad, and women obviously cannot be prophets because they're just women. Also note, this can be taken as a clear indicator that a lot of the Quran's history of the life of Muhammad are fabricated to fit the narrative. There is no way this was needed theologically to justify what it tries to justify. It could have had male offspring. They would just never be prophets and it'd be done. Like, you don't have to kill them off, right? Also, this is the first time in the chronological order that the Quran mentioned Muhammad by name. Am I right on that? I think it is, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
Muhammad mentioned 3 times in the Quran. You're right.
Yeah, it is. Is it the first though?
Should be.
I think so. Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
think his name was mentioned before.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Now we got all this name throwing around in the Quran. We're going in with the chronological order, and I think this is the first time that says, and this is Muhammad, and he's no father of no men of yours, right? So
Yeah, well,
there,
in my version, there's a. I'm sorry, it's not part of the ayah,
but
but it's a footnote. It might be a reference to a tafsir
it's
or
literally the
something.
third word in the ayah.
Yeah, it says that there were actually some sons of Muhammad, but they died as
Yes,
babies.
because they have to comply with this. So they killed the son off in the story before he become an adult.
So, Mubarak, is that your parrot?
I don't have a parrot.
Sorry, no, that's my parrot.
Okay, all right. Well, it's a nice parrot, but it's interfering with us. Right. Sorry, Ibrahim, the son of Muhammad Ibrahim from Mary the Copt, and died when he was a few months old. That's the only son he had.
Muhammad, he had 3 kids. Al Qasim, which is his first, 3 boys, I mean. And then he had Zainab, is one of his daughter. And then he had Abdullah, which is the second boy. And both of them from Khadija. And then he had Kulthum, Ruqayya, and Fatima, the 3 daughters, the little daughter. And then not until he moved to Medina and he was given this concubine, he had another kid, and that one is
Ibrahim.
Ibrahim, and he
That was the
in
fourth
this
one, right?
that
That's
was
the
the
third
third
one.
third
The
boy.
third.
Yeah, I don't know of a fourth kid. I know of those 3. I don't know. I don't think he had a fourth one.
No, he has no 3. But I'm saying during his prophecy, it's only Ibrahim that was
Yeah.
born from Mary the Copt. Okay, the other 2 were from Khadijah before he claimed prophecy. So it's
Yes.
only one child called Ibrahim, and I believe the story says he died while he's few months old. Okay.
Yeah, so all his male offspring are killed off by the narrative, right? The story
Yes.
writers kill off the male offspring, put this verse in the Quran, right? And make sure that he's going to be the last prophet according to the narrative. Otherwise, his male offspring might claim prophethood later on. So they don't want that to happen in the storyline. So when you see something reverberating like this, you can't help yourself but say, okay, somebody is fitting something after the fact into a reality that never actually happened.
I got another super chat to read. Patriot of the West. I think that's Australian $10. I don't know. But it is, he says, I've been making rounds in atheist YouTube, and I finally got you live. Thanks for all your hard work. Odin bless you from an atheist Viking ancestor worship and traditions. Please do continue this series. Thank you very much. Will do.
All right. So
And the thing is, all Muhammad's kids died. Even the daughters, all of them died in his lifetime, except Fatima, and she lived few months, about 6 months or so, and then she passed away. So it's not just that his male offspring ended; it's even his female offspring ended. And the only people that claim to have descendancy today from all the people who claim to descendancy to Muhammad are coming from the youngest daughter and from her 2 boys, Hassan and Hussein. Those are the two groups of people who claims the descendancy from Muhammad, and we have thousands of people living today that claims like direct male lineage to them.
right. So again, this is a clear indication in my mind that this narrative is being doctored for us to believe.
Are they frowned upon? Those people that claim descendancy?
No,
No,
no, it's
they
actually considered
prepared,
a great
and
honor.
yeah,
Hmm.
the one of the people, the famous people, is the king of Jordan and the king of Morocco. Both of them claim descendancy of the prophets.
I'd like to add one thing here. I think we've seen a red herring here, because Muhammad is not the father of any of you men, because already planned to take Zainab. So that's basically a decision that I'm not. There's no adoption. After that, they interpreted that to preserve the fatherhood or the knowing where that child belonged to, and he made it clear we don't want to mix things together. But again, we move to something else when he says, "But he is Allah's messenger and the seal of the prophet." That had nothing to do with descendancy, basically because no prophet we know, as we know, but he has assigned the prophecy to his children's. So he's not worried about that, to be honest. It's just a matter of people together.
Well, in the prophecy of, they talk about Muhammad in the Quran, talks about how the Jewish prophets are inherited, the prophecy of the Jewish people, how that from Israel to Yaqub to Ibrahim, so they're prophet, they inherit each other. That's one of the verses. I'm trying to remember the ayah exactly, but I cannot. But they were like, they inherit one another, they inherit the prophecy and the messenger, but he didn't want to give, or in the story at least, they didn't have anyone to inherit the prophecy.
Yeah, I think male offspring inheritance in the prophet lines, at least in the Abrahamic religion, is pretty established and significant. So I think this verse tries to cut that line off and then modifies the narrative for the history to match this, so that there is no prophet after Muhammad. Right? This, if you took all the prophets that we know of today that have claimed to exist, they all claim a direct descendancy from a previous prophet on a male bloodline. So
if any of Muhammad's children male lived, he wouldn't have come up with this verse. That's for sure.
but they didn't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
obviously this is doctored, because it takes a lot of doing to make sure all your male children don't live. Okay.
Someone in the comments
Oh,
described Mubarak as a living encyclopedia. I just want to add to that sentiment. I appreciate that, and I also I like the degree of study that Anton and Talal are showing as well. Very pleased to have them on the show. I don't know anything about all of this. Is why I'm doing this show, and it's helpful when people appear to know what they're talking about.
Yeah, well, like I said before, a lot of the things that I know are what I've been taught. And this is, I'm like on a opposite spectrum of Aaron, because he has access to this panel of apostates. But all I have is believers, people that believe in Islam, to tell me these things. So details that may be not very flattering for Muhammad, they get omitted, or they may or may not tell me some things. And when I watch this show, even if I wasn't here, it's like some of those pieces fall in place. It's a huge help for me, actually.
I need
Otherwise, I
to
wouldn't
add.
know.
Sorry, I need to add one more thing. At least the majority, let's say 99% of Muslims, they are very familiar with one side of the coin, but the other 10 side of the coin, they were not told so. And what I'm trying to do is at least to expose that side of the coin, and they will decide where the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
It's that side of the coin that I don't have access to.
Yes, it's hard to get to. That's the side that's always down.
Yeah, and this series is not behind any paywall, so
Yeah. So 48 is abrogated. We talked about it. 3349 waives the waiting period for Muslim women who were divorced before consummation.
I have a note of mine about this, and you guys tell me if I'm reading too much into it. It sounds to me like an indoctrination alert or something, because there's a period that's supposed to
Sorry,
elapse.
which verse is that? You talking about?
49.
49, okay.
49, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. After you have divorced them, there's a period that you have to wait before remarrying them, and this is to see if there's if they are pregnant. I
Right.
think it's 3 months or 4 months.
3 months.
3 months.
Yes.
Right, because if they are pregnant, then the baby is
It's
they're
yours.
gonna want to indoctrinate the baby. They're gonna want that baby to be born inside the Islam, right?
Well, they at least will have the father's name regardless, right? So you clear that problem of whose baby this is.
Right, but there's an exception, right? There's no in this ayah, there's no reason to wait for that if she's
Right, because it says
The only
horizontal.
time you do not wait is when she is non-believer,
right,
and
right.
then that straight away her marriage with the non-believer is being excommunicated straight away, and you could rape her the same day, and that's the only time you do not wait.
Well,
It's
this one is a proper divorce, but what happens here, and this might be the misunderstanding that you're suffering from, is if you divorce them before you touch them. This verse says that. So if you pay the dowry, the wife is yours. You did not do anything else. You had dinner together. That's all, and then you divorce her. Okay.
I'm a little confused at that. You marry somebody, and
Yes.
your wedding night never
nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
No intercourse took place.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, the situation is because, again, remember, we are still talking about the story of Muhammad and Zainab and Zayd. So in the story, she refused to have sex with Zayd.
At
Like-
least we are led to believe that.
Yeah. So when she got divorced, and then Muhammad in the new situation, he didn't want to wait the 3 months, and it didn't make sense to wait for 3 months because she refused to have sex. So he was like, "Okay, we're not gonna wait. We're just gonna go into it immediately." And it's become a regulation. If you don't have sex, you do not consummate the wedding. Because if you look at traditional Islamic weddings, you could actually have an actual wedding happen, officiate the papers, and have the witnesses all done, and like you have the wedding on the paper, but nothing happened, and until like the big party. So in that period between the being an official wedding on the paper, official marriage on the paper, to the wedding night of a divorce happened, there is no waiting period.
Yeah, and
That's-
in a lot of cases, sorry to cut into this. In a lot of places, people marry women that are far away from where they are, and then they are shipped out to them, and they may divorce them while they are on the way, right? So she just turns back and goes back to her family.
You
And there is
you
no
can
waiting
marry
period.
somebody who's not present.
Yeah,
Yes,
Really?
I know a couple people from Saudi Arabia. When they were in the United States, they got married via Skype or.
Yeah, but we're talking
or-
about what the like the 7th century.
So you could send a letter to your family back home if you are traveling or wherever. Say, I want to marry, find me a wife. And they have the permission then to find you a wife. And they will make the process, everything. And since you are in some other town, they will ship you your wife. It's called pride by mail.
yes.
And
Well,
it's,
I would have thought that at least the wedding wouldn't happen until she's physically there.
No,
Yeah.
she doesn't even need
Yeah.
to be born.
the wedding will not happen. It's just the marriage is official. That's the problem is.
Okay,
Because-
so I'm just you pay
May I
shipping,
clarify
I guess.
something?
Never mind.
when
All right, I got another super chest read here. It says a question for the guests. This is from Patriot of the West, Australian $5. Thank you. Where can one buy the hadiths in English or Arabic, like one can the Quran? Had any thoughts on Baha'i? I'm guessing.
Is he talking about Bukhari? Sahih
No, he's
Bukhari?
talking about the
Baha'i.
Baha'i sect. He's talking
Yeah, the
about the
Baha'i.
Baha'i sect.
if he's just talking about where to buy translation of the books, there, because the problem with the hadith, there is multiple collection and it differs through multiple sects of Islam. So let's say he could probably, I would say start with, I think there's one, it's called hadith.com. It's like it's a website. Trying to remember the name of it, but I think it's hadith.com and
Sunnah.com.
sunnah.com. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's have the multiple hadith there. It's easier, and it's mainly Sunni hadith. I don't know much about that, where to locate the Shia hadith, and I don't know. Baha'is is another religion, not much different than any other religion, to be honest.
Yeah, if this person is trying to study the Quran itself only, I would recommend not go to the hadiths. Well, at least I don't do it, because the problem with the hadiths is that there's thousands of them. And
Hundreds of thousands.
right, there's hundreds of thousands, and among those, some of them are apocryphal or something. And amongst those, only tens of thousands of those are the true hadiths or whatever. And it's really difficult to go through the hadiths. So, well, I mean, depending on what this person is trying to do, I personally just try not to mess with the hadiths.
I personally
Basically, the
asked him
hadith is like a game of telephone, if you're familiar with that type of game. And the way they are collected, there are way more of them than would be possible for a single person to have said in a lifetime.
I'd like to apologize for the cat, or excuse me, not the cat, the parrot, pretending to be a cat for constantly.
Yeah.
So hard to be. If you're gonna do podcasting and such, just don't have pets.
Let me take this opportunity to advise the one who asked to pick up my book, The Islam Delusion. I put an index. I think from that book he could find a lot of references for the hadith, the ayah, the stories, and the rest of it. It's on Amazon, and it's only $3 something.
Yeah, it's probably much more price effective than buying a hadith collection.
Yeah, I'm actually interested.
If he wants references, he'll find a lot of references over there. Can I go back to this, the waiting period? I need to clarify one thing. There's a couple of issues here. The one who's been divorced, her waiting period is 3 months. Now, the one she's been married, and it's been confirmed, there's no intercourse has taken place. There are two schools of thoughts. Either she has to wait 3 months if they're not too sure, if there is whether intercourse or not. If they confirm there's no intercourse, she does not have to wait. Now, the woman who her husband died, not divorced her, but she died, she needs to wait 4 months and 10 days. 4 months and 10 days. Now, for those being captured, and they are non-believers, they're non-Muslim women, you could have intercourse with them straight away, those mamalakat aymanikum, irrespective, because being captured, being non-believer, their marriage to other non-believers immediately dissolved. Okay, that's what the Sharia says. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So
just to be clear, this ayah says that the period of waiting is only if you haven't touched her, right? When you marry her.
it's waived if you haven't touched, yes.
But if you do, then you have to wait.
Then you have
3
to
months,
wait.
yeah.
So
Exactly.
am I reading too much into this when I see this is probably so they can indoctrinate the child, or
This is
No,
most
no.
likely just so Muhammad can marry Zainab immediately.
Well,
Yeah.
if I'm reading, I mean, it seems that maybe I'm
No,
missing.
no, sorry.
here.
For Zainab, there's exception. God has given the exception. He
Yes.
does not have to wait a day even. There's an
Right.
exception for the prophet.
Right,
That's
but the fact that the wait time is waived, we have discussed that in a previous surah already. So the wait time is waived, whether it's Zainab or not. If they gone all through the dowry and all through the other stuff, but did not have the intercourse, then the wait time is waived, regardless of whether it is Zainab or not. This is not an
Isn't it
exception.
obviously the reason that why there, if the marriage was consummated, the 3 month waiting period is just to make sure that she's not preggers, right?
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
Right. She's not carrying a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's not necessary indoctrination, but it's more of to know who's the parentage of the kid and who's responsible for it. I like because at that time Muhammad is the leader of a town, and there's a lot of things going on in this town or this city, so he need to know who's gonna pay the child support. Basically, he want to know who's gonna pay for this kid, because there's responsibilities at that time, and you're talking about society which is mainly patriotic, which is that the women have to basically struggle and fend for themselves if they did not have any supporters, any husbands, parents, family to take care of them. So if you add on top of that the cost of having a kid with no other person to take care of it, is a big problem. And we know from the story of Muhammad that he grew up with no dad, and his mom struggled. They struggled a lot to a point that she actually basically fended over, gave him to his grandfather and his uncle after that to take care of him before she died. She didn't want to deal with it because she couldn't afford to have a kid and to raise a kid. So
I
it's
think
that situation.
they only mainly concerned with the inheritance and be related to the descendant more than anything else. It's nothing to do with expenses. It's mainly concerned inheritance as his rights, being the child of that father or someone else. That's the issue here.
I think the expenses comes to play there, but that's maybe.
Anyways, 3550, 3350, please.
3350. Prophet, we have made lawful for you the wives whose bride gift you have paid, and any slaves God has assigned you through war, and the daughters of your uncles and aunts and your fathers and mothers' sides who migrated with you. Also, any believing woman who has offered herself to the prophet and whom the prophet wishes to wed, this is only for you, prophet, and not the rest of the believers. We know exactly what we have made obligatory for them concerning their wives and slave girls. You should not be blamed. God is most forgiving, most merciful. God just assigned slaves.
Yeah, it is.
Mhm.
And that's mercy, is it?
Yeah, it is. Now, this is interesting in the sense that it reiterates the good to go women categories, including the fangirl category, which is only for Muhammad, by the way, and it actually says so. So this verse is actually generic to all Muslims except the part that is about the fangirls, because that's a category reserved for Muhammad only. So slave girls are okay as well. And if you just captured them, you don't have to wait 6 months or whatever to clear the, the plumbing. So there you go. It's 50. It said it all.
We have an issue. Well, we have something here has never been granted to any other prophet. Any woman come and says to the Prophet Muhammad, I have given myself to you, it's immediately his. There's no need for dowry, no need for witness, no need for a contract. And it's for him. It cannot be for someone else.
Yes.
Now, the point here, the Prophet has the option to take her or to adjourn her. Okay, and that is something we need to explain. He has the option. If he looks at her, she's not to his liking, he may very well adjourn her, or postpone her, or put her on a waiting list. That's something we need to clarify here.
I just saw that somebody posted a question here wanting to know who Buraz is because he looks familiar. So I'm not going to divulge exactly who he is. I'm just going to let you know that he's a child actor, and you can go figure out what old show he was on.
Okay. So next one, 51.
Just a minute. Oh, 51. You may make any of your women wait and receive any of them as you wish, but you will not be at fault if you invite one whose turn you have previously set aside. This way it is more likely that you will be satisfied and you will not be distressed, and you will be content with what you have given them. God knows what is in your hearts. God is all-knowing, forbearing.
That's what I was talking about earlier
this-
on. That
yes.
verse confirmed this. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much personal stuff there are in a book that's meant for humanity until the end of time.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing how much stuff only pertains to what Muhammad himself is allowed to do that everybody else doesn't get to do. And this is what we need in the timeless book for all humanity. It's not even like a separate book. These provisions for the prophet and God's message to all humanity. No, it's all jumbled in there. And there's not one bit of it in like why you should wash your hands, about infectious microorganisms. God doesn't tell us anything useful. He's just commanding us, believe whatever poppycock this guy tells you, give him all your women, let him do what he wants. He doesn't have to obey laws, you do. Give him a bunch of your money, by the way, too, and kill everyone who doesn't believe this book.
It's literally based on what he wants and when he wants it. Even Aisha, the kid wife, mentioned something like it's what did she say? Let me see. I feel that your Lord hastens in fulfilling your wishes and desires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually
Call him and his bullshit.
I was taught that Muhammad never took advantage of this freedom that is expressed in this ayah, and he always consulted with his wives about the change of turns, and he always gave them equal time.
That's
No.
not correct. That's not true.
Do you guys think this is likely?
No.
No.
There was a lot of discontent between the wives.
Yeah. Sorry,
Quite
he
a
did
lot.
say he tried to give them an equal share. But one of his wives said, she was, I think, Hafsa or Salama, one of them. She was a bit, what they're saying, she got to be old, fat, the rest of it, and he did not desire her. And she knew that's going to come to her. And she said, well, he was going to divorce her. And he said, well, that's hadith as well. I am prepared to give my night to Aisha or anybody you wish, but please keep me on as your wife. Then he agreed. That's the bargain he struck with her, simply because of her equal share, as you said. But they said he was so justice in giving shares. In fact, he used to go and run among all the wives, 9 wives in one night. And I don't know how, probably one hour each, half an hour each, whatever. But he used to be very fair in giving them the love and the passion they need. That's what they told us.
2-pump champ.
I wonder how
Very
much
fair.
time
I love
he's
the way you
got.
put that. It's very fair to give them the love and the passion that they need. And then he looks at his watch.
Your hour is
Time's up.
1
Yep.
hour.
I've got a 10:30.
I believe there was another instance where he was supposed to spend the night with one wife, but instead he slept with one of his slaves on the bed of the wife. Can't remember her name.
Mary the Cop. That was Hafsa. And
Yes.
she came, and the verse came. Funny enough, I spoke about this, and I like that particular part. Well, she came and she found Mary the Copt in her bed, and she said, "Look, blah blah." They had a big argument, and the prophet. Well, that's again acknowledged by most of the Sunni, the Prophet made an oath. He will not come to that. He will not do that again. But apparently he couldn't. He couldn't suppress his urge, or he did it again. Well, and then again, Hafsa. Well, maybe she had enough. Maybe they had a big row, and the verse came very clearly. The Prophet should not forbid himself for what is his. So you don't have to make oath. You don't have to refrain. Do it. It's your right. And there's a verse for that. I'll come with it in a couple of minutes. I'll pick it up later.
All
Yeah, we got
right.
another. Somebody gave. Robert Lawrence gave $10. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, so 52, which is abrogated by 3350. My take here is it should be read in the light of 3350. 4 wives at a time plus unlimited number of slave girls, because yeah. What about the fangirl provision? Or what you explained it to me that you can put them on the waiting list. So that's cleared as well. This is in the list of abrogation by the way. So 50 and 52 go together here. I think this is the statement that you can't have more wives than 4, but you can have an unlimited amount of slave girls.
This is the creator of the entire universe, every galaxy therein.
Yeah.
And he says this. He
says
concentrates half this short book to the promiscuity of a slave master.
Yeah, and the reason, like, we know abrogation is basically an excuse for the contradiction, but the action of Muhammad didn't stop him from marrying, according to the story after this ayah came out. So the Muslims have to deal with this idea that Muhammad acted against the Quran. So they had a semi-abrogation in this ayah, which is like you have to take it within the veil of the other ayahs. And it's crazy. Just basically the man couldn't keep it in his pants anymore, and he just wanted more. So even though the Quran said at that time, do not take any more wives, he said, well, I will take more wives, I will change it because I make this shit up. Basically, and it's very baffling when Muslims be like, no, he's not making this shit up. It's like the book says he's making this shit up. Reading the book explains the fact that he's just making this shit up. And it's just annoying for me. It's like, see it.
And I just want to read over that again because somebody in the comments said, if the prophet wants your wife, I'm just not seeing that interpretation in this. If the prophet wants your wife, you have to divorce her because he wants her.
According to the story writers, no.
Okay.
But according to the reality of things that transpired there, yeah, he basically said, I like your wife, Zayd. So Zayd was going, okay, you can have my wife. Like, come on.
There's no instruction. They do it out of courtesy.
Right.
They've done it a couple of times, or at least their concubine they have given. The concubine of Karafa was given to Muhammad. He asked twice for her. There's hadith. He asked twice for her. Saw her in the market. She was the most prettiest woman in Arabia. And his name Salama, one who her capturer, and he asked for her twice, and he gave her. He gave her to him. Yeah, but there's no obligation or instruction in that.
It's just the overarching power of the guy. Basically, he wants his concubine. You just give it.
Yeah, what I have in my notes about his marriages is that they were in order to convert other tribes to Islam.
Yeah,
because a lot of
Sure.
That's what they teach you, yes.
Go ahead,
See,
Mubarak. Explain it away.
Okay, they claim all those marriages are to have tribal alliances and allegiances that they had, but we see all the people he married either are a very close allies already to him, like Aisha and Hafsa. Both of them are kids of Umar and Abu Bakr, and both of them are like the most loyal to him. And then we see him marrying women who have no connection in any tribal sense. Um, the one woman that might have been a very like a reason for it is like an allegiance alliance type thing is the Jewish woman that he killed her husband and dad the same day he married her. And the only reason he married her because he fancied her. It's nothing like he just destroyed the tribe that they were gonna marry into. So it's like nothing there makes sense if you look at it from tribal allegiances. Do
Yeah,
you know who married someone for tribal allegiances? The founder of Saudi Arabia. He had 36 kids out of I don't know tens of wives, not at the same time, but
Yeah.
he would marry them for a little bit, have a kid, divorce. And if you look, you could look up his history with the wives. He never married the same tribe again. Like he would marry one wife from a tribe, keep her for a period of time, divorce her, go to the next one. Muhammad didn't do that. Muhammad married people and kept them by his side, and of course he made an excuse for it. But all of those people that he married did not have any tribal connection, did not have any tribal power to pull. So it doesn't make sense to say just for tribal allegiances and alliances.
And the woman named Rayhana and the tribe, Jewish tribe, that he killed her tribe, and literally every man in that tribe. And he married her, they said the same day. Rayhana was her name. Yeah, let me just recite that verse very quick for when God has given him permission to have the sex in any bed, anywhere he likes. O Prophet, why do you prohibit what Allah has permitted for you, seeking to please your wives? Allah is forgiving and merciful. Okay. Well, that's when
So,
Hafsa quoted him in quote Maria the Copt in her bed, making love to her or
yeah, so
having
when you
sex.
got 36 kids now, we were talking about how you allot your time for the passion that your wives need. And now you got 36 kids now, and I'm roughly, half of them are going to be boys. What, you got 18 boys now, and so how do you allot time to go play ball with your son? So, okay, you got your 15 minutes to play ball in the front yard. Nope, now bring in Ahmed. It's his turn.
Yep.
Yeah, that's or you just find them, give them to someone who would take care of them, buy them servants and slaves, and they will nannies and they will take care of them. They will be their parents.
So one
Like
of the
the
things that
like
confuses
like
me about this is
what?
we, we are all apostates. We all understand why. Well, not all of us were, Muslim at one point. I mean, all of y'all were. But I mean, you all understand why you're not Muslim now, right? You read the Quran, you go through this, you read this can't be real. There's so many things that are not evaluated in this. Um, Yet, Islam is still the fastest growing religion on earth and is soon to eclipse Christianity as to be the dominant faith worldwide.
That's not true now. It's different story now. The past
There's
five
another
years.
religion that's faster growing.
No, the past 5 years, no, it's not necessarily what I'm trying to say. The past 5 years, it's been a halt, a great halt, because
Ah,
even Muslims start to think seriously about their faith, and those who want to adopt Islam has been seeing a lot of things make them think twice before they go. 10 years ago, yes, it was moving fast because of two reasons: peace, well, and I could have 4 women at least, and I could have women that if I ask her to worship me instead of God, she would do so. That's mainly the reason.
hmm.
There is some when you get in the beginning when you see any of those missionary Muslim missionaries working around, there is a lot of appealing thing that they tantalize you with a carrot before your eyes. They give you some candy and stuff. They even would lie for you to become Muslims. But the moment you step in and you see the truth, you will see a different story behind it. And the truth of the matter now, there because of the ex-Muslim movement, we have a lot of people leaving Islam, which is something that 10 years ago was not like publicly being like in countries like Saudi Arabia, not publicly but privately, that there is a huge number, to a point that the clergy notice that and say we have a big problem, that we have a lot of apostate people don't want to believe in the Islam anymore. Um, Yet it's some of it is humane reason, because Islam goes against humanity and humanism. Because the moment you think about it, there's a lot of things that goes wrong in Islam, and you have to make a lot of apologetics to fix it. Um, and the fact that there is the interaction between the Muslim world and the West and the modern sciences have become very accessible today with the internet. Um, uh, like Richard Dawkins' book, for example, The God Delusion, when it translated to Arabic, it was like tens of thousands of people in Saudi Arabia were downloading it as a PDF, because they couldn't buy it in the libraries or on bookstores. They will get it online and will read it and will start questioning a lot of things today that was not possible 10 years ago or 20 years ago are more available, more accessible. So I don't think Islam is going to eclipse. There was a study about how in like 2030 or 2050, Islam will be the dominant religion in Europe, for example. But from what we see, well, I think Islam will dissolve quickly.
Well,
Not
the reason I still thought that it might be was because just before we began recording, we had another conversation, and we were talking about how hundreds of thousands of children were molested just in France, according to a recent study that had recently come out. And of course, we get similar story of tens of thousands of children being murdered by the Catholic Church in Canada, and then all of the things that were going on with the Catholic Church in Australia. Just pick a country and look what the Catholic Church has been doing to children there, and systematically the entire religion. So now Catholicism represents just over half of all of collective Christianity. And most Christians don't accept Catholics as part of their religion anyway. So Catholicism should be having, I would think, an implosion shortly. How could people put up with 216,000 children for decades being molested just in that one small country? People have to reach a tolerance level where they're like, fuck them, I'm not Catholic anymore. That's got to happen very, very soon, right? I mean, how do you say, well, I'm a Catholic priest? No, I'm not the buggering kind. I mean, how do you introduce yourself as a Catholic priest? Now, people aren't going to look at you like Father Mulcahy from the old MASH TV show. No, they're going to look at you like you're some insidious bastard. So there's going to have to be some kind of implosion. That Catholicism is being rejected by Protestant Christians as not being true Christians themselves, and they're going to implode and disintegrate. So what ends up happening from that is that Catholicism would be at this moment, Christianity. Without Catholicism, Christianity would be the third or fourth largest religion. That's it. They would be behind. Islam would be dominant, and Hinduism would be the second largest religion at that point. So
Let me add one
Yeah.
more thing. I've been with the Clubhouse for the last 4 months, and I myself was pretty active on the Arabic side. Almost every other day, I put a particular heading. We discussed. I've seen dozens of those people who were true believers now in great doubt, and I've seen many that they have left Islam altogether. Okay, mainly when we expose or when we discussed what true Islam is. As far as those people who adopt, there is three main factors that make people go to Islam, especially the Arab. Basically, reactions against so-called imperialism. Second, what they have heard about other religion against them. It's like the Crusaders and the rest. And the third thing, which is basically they resign to the fact they would get a lot of things out of Islam by saying, I believe there is one God and Muhammad, there's nothing else to it. It's 5 second, 10 second saying, and you are a Muslim. And that's what it is. But as far as numbers, If we go back to number, yes, I agree with that. Indoctrination, yes, but not to the extent when people start to communicate with others and really being exposed to what true Islam is. I think it doesn't take long them to decide, no, it's not the religion for me, if they want to take a religion.
What about the breathing? Because I understand what you guys mean by the implosion and how it's no longer growing as fast. But one thing I keep in mind that it's probably gonna prevent these implosions is the way these are breathing. Say, for example, that a family that is very fundamentalists have kids and lots of kids because of their religion, and they indoctrinate them. They since childbirth, since they're
That's
little.
still, sorry, that's still valid. That's still ongoing, obviously. But again, the parents have a hell of a problem when the child become 12, 13, 14 adolescents. He's immediately, more or less, within a short time, all that indoctrination being exposed and dissolved. So they do have a problem with it, and they are very careful. They're very
Yeah, I think
careful.
Talal is right that the attenuation that all religions are seeing right now is significant. So that is changing things. When people were talking about how Islam was going to take over Christianity, that part of that estimate was the assumption that the birth rate was just going to remain consistent, that those kids were always going to be Muslim, and that's clearly not happening. In places like Saudi Arabia, even Saudi Arabia, you have a surprising number of deconversions, people becoming atheists, where it is illegal in a death sentence to be so. It's still happening there, but it's happening more, just more frequently, like in the further outposts, like in Europe, where a lot of people are just losing their faith because there's, well, we're seeing as we read the Quran why people would be losing their faith in this religion.
Sorry, it's happening in Kuwait, in Qatar, in UAE on a very large scale. Because I do have connections and I hear people what they say when they talk. The only problem now is they will keep it low profile because it's not that easy to announce. Fanatics still have a saying, still have cells, hiding cells, and they worry about their future, about their family. Plus, if we talk about breeding, now Muslims' families are very concerned. The economic side of it does not help them to have more than 3 or 4 children at most. Before, it was a different story. Now they have to think twice, 3 times, 10 times about getting more than 3 children. And that's even that idea is being challenged.
It's just there's a lot of deconversions going on in the Islamic world, not just in Arabia. Just no one can come out and say it because they'll just get ostracized.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the privilege that, I don't know, a lot of people in the West have, which is the ability to have your own belief, no matter what belief you have, or lack of thereof. It's the same thing. Like if you go to Saudi Arabia, and let's say Aaron end up there for some bad reason, I don't know why, but he end up there. He would have to pretend to be Christian, at least, to go around, because they don't acknowledge atheism. You cannot be non-religious. They will, and like they will write it down in official documents, that this person have came to Saudi Arabia and he is a Christian and he would live there for a little bit and then go, even though he was an atheist or non-believer or agnostic or whatever.
All right, so if they don't acknowledge atheism, if you have to have a religion, then okay, satanic temple.
That happened to me once, believe it or not. I said, I don't remember, I was very young, and I said, no religion. And somebody said to me, what do you mean, no religion? Which one?
Yeah.
I had a conversation with an Orthodox rabbi one time, and he wasn't the best guy at all. But one of the things he was baffled with is the fact that I left Islam, and he kept repeating, "It's like, a Muslim that doesn't believe in God. I was like, yeah, I'm not a Muslim anymore. It doesn't make sense to say a Muslim believes in God. I was like, I'm not a Muslim anymore.
Yes.
That's true
Madeline Murray
too.
O'Hare, who founded American Atheists, complained at one of her presentations that most atheists in this country, and this is still true, most atheists in this country do not identify as atheists. Many of them don't realize that they are atheists because they've been given other definitions, that an atheist is someone who knows that there is no God, or an atheist is necessarily someone who has a positive belief that there is no God, something along those lines. She said that most atheists identify as Methodist or as whatever religion they were born into. And they just keep that label for the rest of their life and think somehow that they're Christian, even when they don't believe in God. There are ministers, even here in Texas, leaders of churches who don't believe in a God at all, but still identify with their denomination that they were born into.
Yeah, that's one of the reason I think the numbers of the non-religious in the United States is on the rise, because people don't want to identify as atheist because they think that, like, they have that bad stigma of atheism, so they were like, I don't have religion anymore, so I'm a non-religious.
You don't believe in God, but you're not an atheist, are you?
Exactly.
I've actually gotten that argument from friends of mine. Just because I don't believe in God doesn't make me atheist.
Yeah.
Sure. Anyways, I
Honestly,
have
though,
a small comment. 53. Anybody wants to talk about it?
Oh, don't go to Muhammad's house.
oh, oh, I love this one. Another
Yeah, this
example
one.
of Muhammad implying his own agenda into the Quran.
How about
Yeah.
talking to his wives?
It's see, this is the fascinating. Muhammad has been a grumpy old man here. Basically, people are coming to his place, and it is one of the very, very well known Arabic tradition is to be a host for your guests, no matter what time of the day they show up at or how long they stay. You cannot kick them out. So he is getting bothered by it. People staying after dinner and chit chatting and having a nice time.
And do
The,
note, Muhammad has obligations to his multiple wives.
yeah, he have to go spend some time with his multiple wives. So he doesn't want to leave his house with his wives with a strange men in the house. So he cannot kick them, and he's getting bothered by it. God is all merciful, so he told them the people. Don't bother the prophet after dinner. You could eat dinner with him and leave him alone because he have a full schedule at night to go and pray and do stuff.
Yep.
And he's shy about it.
And he's shy about it.
He's not going to kick you out because he's shy.
Yeah,
Muhammad's too shy,
and
so God needs to step in.
To the
Yeah.
point I like to go for this verse is you can talk to his wives, and I'm guessing concubines in this case. If you want to talk to them, you talk to them from behind a barrier, a curtain, or a hijab, which is the correct word for it. And I will go ahead and read into this that this is an obligation to wear the hijab for Muslim women. Now,
we will come to the obligation in
I know we will
59.
come to
Yeah.
that. Yes, but this is an allusion to it that this is for the Prophet's wives to speak to people from behind the hijab, even in their own houses.
Yeah.
Right. So, and again, their role as second to Muhammad lieutenants, if you like, is very clear in this verse. They were propagating the faith and giving fatwas to people who were asking questions. And
We know for the years that Aisha lived after Muhammad, because she was young again,
yes,
that she taught the hadith and fiqh, and she had students from all around the Islamic world at that time coming to her to learn from her.
yes.
And but what's fascinating for me is not just the fact that they talk to her to them behind a curtain or a hijab, but the fact that this next sentence is like, don't hurt the messenger of God by marrying his wives after his death.
Right.
Oh, I have a comment on that.
What
I have
the fuck? Like, seriously, what human being? Like, you are so low and so unsecure in yourself that not just after your divorce, like people will divorce people and get remarried and never care about them. No, after your death, they should not even get remarried.
Especially for Aisha, because I think she was 20 when,
18.
20
But
something,
18,
18.
18
yeah,
when Muhammad
Yes.
died, right?
Yes. She's totally
right.
screwed with this. Like, she has her entire adult life in front of her, and no one can marry her.
yeah.
Yeah, I have a footnote that somebody, one of the followers of Muhammad, was attracted to her, but this was frowned upon.
Well, there is obvious reasons right in front of you.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. One of the Sahaba, I forgot his name, he said literally, if Muhammad died, I'll be the first. He didn't say the first, I'll be the one to marry Aisha. That
No.
saying came to the Prophet, and immediately this verses came afterwards. That's true.
Yeah.
Surprised he kept his head.
I- So it's not just um, what we see here is the fact that there is a human right of a companionship, and there is physical and biological need to be fulfilled, and God says no, because Muhammad does not trust himself. He's way to be compared to other men. And one thing we have to note, Muhammad had a problem with his private area because we know from the hadith that when he was born circumcised. And it's a health condition, medical condition, where a lot, and it might cause a lot of pain in the private area. I'm not gonna go into more details into that because it's not the subject of the matter of today, but think about it. The guy had a lot of problem with his private area, and he had multiple wives. Why? To prove his manlyhood. But he didn't have any kids with all those wives. So there is a lot of things to think about here. I'm just gonna I'm gonna rest my case at that.
The
Yeah.
Sahabi, sorry, the man named Talha ibn Ubaid. Talha ibn Ubaid. He is the guy who said, as soon as Muhammad dies, I will marry Aisha.
So thanks to that guy, now Aisha can't remarry after Muhammad. All right. Now, the other interesting thing is that so you ask them from behind the hijab, and that's better for your hearts and their hearts. So it kind of said, yeah, it's you don't see each other because it's better for them, the women, right? So they wouldn't be enticed by, good-looking guys asking questions. Um, sure. Okay. Anyways, 55 is my next note.
And before we go, just 53, it's interesting to see that God had to interfere. Muhammad was shy. It's very interesting to know. Muhammad was shy to tell his friends, his companion, not to linger after they had their dinner. But Allah is not shy to tell them so. I mean, it should be comparison. And the
Yes.
verse gives you that very clearly.
Yeah. Yep. It does. Indeed. Okay, 55, my next notes. No requirement to cover speak from behind a barrier in the enumerated cases here. Also adds their slaves. Interesting. 55, لا جناح عليهن من آبائهن. So they don't need to cover in front of their fathers. And it just goes through a litany of people that women do not need to cover in front of if they are alone with them, and their slaves. So women owned slaves, as we know they did. and they don't have to cover from in front of their slaves, although they are biologically not related to them. And that's what 55 brings to the table, that you don't have to wear the hijab in front of your slaves if you're a woman.
But you have to wear the hijab in front of your husband, the slaves.
Yes.
Just a note there.
Yes. So I guess you have to buy your own slaves.
And the slaves do not have to wear hijab in the public, by the way.
Which
Yeah,
one?
that
Yeah.
yeah, the hijab is only for the free women, not for
correct.
slave women.
My next note is 59.
Prophet, tell your wives, your daughters, and women believers to make their outer garments hang low over them so as not to be recognized and not insulted. God is most forgiving, most merciful, yada, yada, yada.
Yes, so cover up, and not just for Muhammad's wives this time around. This can and is interpreted as hijab, niqab, burqa requirement. So much for those who say it is not in the Quran. I would like to have that enlightened view. I would really do. But I find it impossible to hold against verses like this buried deep in the Quran, here and there.
Before we go to that, can I just mention something about 56?
Yes.
It's nothing worthwhile. Well, Allah and His angels send blessing to the Prophet. O you who believe, call for blessing on him and for greetings of peace. Now, this is basically where all Muslims taking instruction, being instructed to bless Muhammad. So when you hear Muslims say Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mean peace be upon him, that's basically where they're taking the instruction from for this verse. Because if Allah bless Muhammad, the least we could do as Muslim, bless him every time his name is mentioned.
Okay, so this is why they keep saying it all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's an extended version of this where God says that if you don't say that, God and His angels will sing curses on you.
That's hadith. That's hadith.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought I was going to.
Is it one of the good hadiths?
Yeah.
The trusted one?
Very often repeated. Very often.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody in the chat suspects that or believes that religion will be illegal soon. No, it won't. It's just not
No
going to
chance.
happen.
No chance.
Yeah, it's not going to happen in any country.
My next note is 63. Please read your notes.
All right, 63. People ask you about the hour, say God alone has acknowledged it. How could you, prophet, know? The hour may well be near. And my note was, here is a voice from the distant future to assure you that you got plenty of time. And Jesus never came back when he promised he would. And the day of Brahma ended many millions of years ago.
Yes.
See, the problem is at that time they didn't invent watches yet, so he didn't know the hour.
Ineffective scare tactic should not have worked even then.
And okay, I have to say, it did not work. For a lot of people in Mecca were like, this is bullshit. Remember that a lot of the people that were around him called him out on all of that stuff. And they even did give good reasoning behind it, why it's all bullshit. They're like, if we are dead and we are dust, like our won't turn to dust anymore, there will not be a reincarnation anymore. And the fact that Muhammad, basically by coercion, by the end of his life, forcing people to believe in this, it's a fact that
conversation with my mother. She is Mormon, and she was telling me about her belief, and I was like 8, I think, when we had this conversation, and she was telling me how. I said, when I die, maybe I should be cremated, because I'm thinking about all of the graves filling up everywhere. You got billions of people, and everybody's being buried. There, you run out of room, right? So we should be cremated. And I'm always kind of a big picture kind of kid. And she said, well, you can't be cremated because on the resurrection day, you need your body so that you can come crawling out of the grave. And I'm like, you actually believe? What happens to people that were eaten by sharks?
Sharks
That was the
poop.
question.
God
I
will
asked
bring
her
the
when I
shark back. Will bring the shark all together.
You have to kill other creatures to bring you back again because they have now ingested you and incorporated your atoms into their bodies.
Now you have to put the creatures in hellfire too.
Yeah. Can I put the Muslims' hat here to justify verse 63? That is, but you never know, perhaps the hour is near. The other verse says that a day in Allah's count is equal to 1,000 years. So it's been now 1,400 years, only 1.5 days. So that's well justified. Still near, if we take every day as 1,000 years. So it's been only 1.5 days. So that is, I mean, there is a logic in this. The hour is very near. They said that 1,400 years ago. If we take every 1,000 year is in one day in Allah count. So it's been only 1.5 days. So who knows? Another 1.5 day, another 1,500 years maybe. If we say 3 to 4 days, that is well justified. Okay.
Yay. 64. Curse the disbelievers and prepared created hellfire for them. Correct. Please use your notes.
64.
Yes.
Okay. God has rejected the disbelievers and prepared a blazing fire for them. And here is an admission that God created hell. Christians refuse to admit this, pretending as if hell is the one thing their God didn't create, as if it's not even God's fault that we don't believe and are damned by ourselves rather than by Him.
Yep. It uses the word sa'ir for hellfire. It's one of the names of hellfires. There are several names. Yeah.
But there is no mention of creation here. Prepared.
Well, I don't know. Yes, he prepared it. Yeah.
No creation, and prepared may very well, as far as the logic of the Muslim says, God very well may have prepared as a plan, but there is no hellfire so far. But in the doomsday, it'll be ready for them. So He has not created it, but He prepared it. I don't know how. But there's difference between preparing and created.
Well,
Yeah, and the word sa'ir in Arabic that it means a fire that have been like a constant fire that keep on feeding. So the image that comes in my mind it's like a steam engine. If you ever saw one in the movie, like where they just shovel the coal into the engine, that's basically is when they keep feeding fire to have a hotter and hotter and more energy being released. So if the hellfire is already,
it's not a smoldering fire, and it's not just a starting fire. It's a
Yeah.
fire that is ongoing.
it's ongoing.
We need to keep in mind that the fuel for God's hell is stone and human body. So I
Yes.
believe it'll be ready there at that time. He'll ignite it somehow, and He will not create it. It'll be ready for Him to put all those non-believers, faulty makers, hypocrite, atheists, you name it, and along with the stone, and that will be the fuel of His fire.
Yeah,
It is
and-
described.
Go ahead, Antoine.
I would contend, just for the sake of being funny about it, that looking at Surah Abu Lahab, the fire is fueled by wood.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. In a previous surah, is described to be fueled by wood. Very primitive, in my opinion. I mean, it's no mention of plasma or something.
Yeah, but He didn't say the only source of the fuel. He says some of the source, one of the source will be human body and stone. So you go.
Yeah, so somebody threw a question out, said, today I've learned from an imam that the hour, this is from Most Epic, so they learned from an imam that the hour doesn't have to refer to the end of days from a Quranic perspective. Is this correct?
No, that is incorrect.
No.
That imam is telling him fibs like they've been telling millions of fibs.
That imam is going to hell.
Okay, and then we also have a super chat. This is from Patriot of the West. Thank you very much. Australian $10. Just a thought and a little joke. Combine the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Quran, the Book of Mormon, and the Baha'i scriptures, and have both English and original languages in parallel. Call it the Abrahamic Pentascrolls. Okay.
68 is my next comment.
All right, look, finding it. 68.
Really
Lord,
sweet.
give them a double punishment and reject them completely.
Double
Yeah.
infinity.
A double infinity. There you go.
Hmm.
I don't know how.
Allah failed that math again.
Maybe
And
it's
that
double the temperature of the hellfire.
Can
I don't
that
know.
be
Does
mathematically
it matter?
measured?
The question here is, does it matter it's twice as hot? You already burn into ashes in seconds, and then
Yeah.
you recreate it. Doubling the temperature will actually reduce your suffering because you burn faster.
Mm.
See,
Because-
that's where you recognize the fact that it's just a human concept that did not know much about the science behind fire, because it's just like, oh, I'm gonna give them double the punishment, because the thought in their mind is just like lashing, beating someone. So when you double the punishment in that sense, makes sense. Someone's gonna get lashed 100. Well, you double it, that's 200. That's more pain for them to deal with. But when you burn someone, it doesn't matter when you double the heat. It just incinerate people.
And that's where you would recognize that when the Arabs used to say punish him twice, it's a human statement, human being statement that they used to do once, and they say, well, it's not enough for him. Leave him for a while, then punish him again. And that's where the double the punishment come from.
Yeah, at the end of this verse says, and curse them a big curse. What? They're small ones, really? Come in different sizes now.
In a previous surah, it said that you have coffee breaks between tortures in hell, anyways.
Yeah, and you get a lunch break where you get to eat these little skull berries.
Right,
Yeah.
I forgot the surah.
Yeah.
No, there's no
Strawberries
such thing.
and boiling water.
And the extremely hot chicken wings.
Okay, I'm down.
That makes sense now. That's why Aaron loved all that hot spices.
Say if you need to describe something, describe it well. So give it what it deserves. No, you will not have a break, but what you will have a chance to say to the believers or people in heaven, please give us some water and food. Okay, you will have that chance to ask for that. And the believer would say, oh no, Allah has forbidden us to giving you any of those things. That you will have. You have another chance to try to get out of hell, but every time you try to get out, the hell keepers, will push you back in no time. So that's the two chances you have over there. Whether you succeed or not, that's up to you, I suppose.
Yeah.
I love it when all these punishment.
Okay, let's not go into it. So if a believer in heaven helps somebody from hell, would Allah remove him from heaven and put him in hell as a punishment? AKA contravene his judgment from putting him in heaven in the first place? Or how's that going to work out if somebody helps someone from hell?
You're supposed to point and laugh. You're forbidden to do.
But that's
helping.
immoral. That's unethical to do, isn't it?
Allah is able to do everything, anything. So that is up to him. He could do that, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, 72, my last note here.
Wait, I have a comment on 69.
Okay.
Because the extended version, like I mentioned, for this surah, mine is quite different. It says that you're not supposed to argue false claims about how Muhammad divides the booty of war, because that's what it says in 69. Don't do false claims.
No, it says don't do like those people who hurt Moses.
Right. And this is because there was being some false claims about how Muhammad divides the booty of war, and says, don't be like those who once made false claims about Moses, that he was hiding a skin rash, a skin disease. And this is because Moses didn't take his clothes off when he bathed, and people thought he was hiding something.
See, it doesn't make sense because when you the thing that they are accusing it, they accused Moses of having a skin disease. That's why he didn't take off his clothes. Well, Muhammad never took off his clothes, which is another practice of ancient, like Arabian. When it's hot, you take some layers off, and he never did. So people start talking about him that he might have something. He's hiding something. Why isn't he taking off his clothes just like the rest of us? So Allah saying like, don't accuse him just like those people accused Moses, and Allah.
Right.
Allah brought out the evidence that Moses is okay, but he never brought out the evidence that Muhammad is okay.
In one of the footnotes, it says that Allah made a rock hook onto his clothes, Moses' clothes, one time, and he lost his clothes, and everybody saw him naked for a brief time, and that was Allah absolving him of this.
Let me explain to you what has been interpreted as for this. Basically, do not say that he is a liar. Do not say that he did not come with the truth, like you said to Moses, that will hurt the prophet. So basically, do not tell him something. He's a liar. He's a hypocrite. He's not telling the truth. That's what it means exactly.
Yeah, I agree more with that.
But Talal and Bogi, that the story there it's compared to is not accusation of lying, because we already had this as an accusation. Is the accusation of a bodily, like having a problem in his body, have a skin rash. That's the accusation of Moses, that he had a skin rash of sort.
Yeah, he was trying to hide it.
Yeah,
that was the accusation.
And I think that a lot of people were accusing Muhammad of hiding his body. He was ashamed of his body, so a lot of people were accusing him of that. And here's another excuse of him, like, do not do that, it's not good.
Like some of the hadiths even mentioned that when he had
that could be the case. I don't think we need to go further. But what I'm trying to say, the most recognized interpretation, very simply, because the ayah after that, فَبَرَأَةُ اللَّهُ مِمَّا قَالُوا, إِنَّ اللَّهَ witnessing what you said. And what you said, he is a liar. Anyway, that is what the most interpretation for this verse.
I was like Ibn Kathir. All the explanation he showed in, like, Ibn Kathir is one of the most acclaimed tafsirs in Sunni Islam. That he all of the stories talks about skin or body defect. He doesn't talk about being a liar there.
Okay.
So,
no worries. No worries.
It's okay. It could be a liar, or it could be another thing about, well, another birth defect.
Okay, let's go to 72.
I agree with you. Both are mentioned. You're right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. There are likely causes for this verse. Either way, don't oppose Muhammad. You're not going to end up well. Anyway, 72, I was wanting a short discussion on this. And the point I'm going to throw on the table here is, so the amana in this one, which is the trust of the book, right, was presented to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, and they refused to take it. And they were afraid to take it. But humankind, man, took it because he was unjust and ignorant. is taking a task out of ignorance okay? Is putting a task on someone while they don't know what the task is that okay to account them for?
Yeah, well, that's one point. The other point I'd like to mention that basically Allah knows that a human is unworthy, incapable, and is ignorant. So unfair, it's unfair to give or to accept him to take that task. But the point I'm trying to make that is it's a very odd to know when somebody would refuse because they denied. They said, no, we're not taking it. Now, there's a couple of saying I've heard recently about this amana, the task. What they're saying, amana here is a humanity, which is obviously one of the interpretation to cover as a cover. But the point is it justifiable? Can we conceive that one of those God creation would refuse God's request? Well, that's the first question to ask. And they have refused, so it's a democratic attitude here. They said, no, we're not going to take it. We know there is a lot of it. There's a lot of worries. How did they know? God only knows. And is it fair to offer it to someone, to the human that you know very well is incapable of taking it? Those two questions are always there for Muslims to answer.
Right, but Allah made humanity incapable of taking the task. So
Yet he tasked
in
them.
my eyes, it's him dropping the ball on this one. And I'm gonna put my apologist hat for a minute. And the way I was taught is that this is a metaphor because mankind is one of the aspects of nature, and just like the heavens and the mountains and the earth, and it's the only one that is how was it told to me, like capable of being inept. No,
No,
It's-
the apology as it goes is still inadequate because even if it's an aspect of nature, it's still Zalum and Jahuran at the end, regardless. So it shouldn't have taken it and it shouldn't have been tasked to take it either.
Hmm.
So it makes a loop for no good reason and ends up in the same place.
Got another super chat to read. And this one is from Zagros Azkan, $99.99. And this is this month's jizya, my lords.
Wow. You owe us a drink. Aaron, you owe us free drink now. That's 2 free drinks.
Okay.
Okay, that was my last note for this surah. We can go for the next one if we want to.
Oh, I have a little tiny note on 73.
Yes.
The exception of the apostates is missing.
Well, mushrikeen or mushrikat, yeah, the apostates are in there. Just because it says polytheists and hypocrites, yeah.
The reason I bring it up is because in a previous episode, it was said that even if the apostates, that's the people that once believed but rejected it, then even in case they come back, they wouldn't be allowed, right?
Yeah,
Just in case.
This language about kafirin and mushrikeen and other types of wrongly believers, yeah, it's the same category, and basically it's just words. Like it's words of the same things. Those who don't believe according to Islam.
I'm sorry, there is no apostate in the ayat. Very clear.
There is not clearly an
Just me,
apostate.
yeah,
The
but
mushrik
neither.
is a wrongly believing person, isn't it?
No. I mean, I agree with you. Mushrik is the one who acquaint with Allah, another deity. That's what the mushrik is. And munafiq is the
Like
hypocrite.
Christians.
Like Christian, correct. But there's
Okay.
no apostate in the verse. Very clear. There's no apostate.
No.
And no
Verbal.
atheist as well. Sorry. Yeah.
Right. But what is an atheist word in the Quran?
Mulhid.
Is it
Yeah,
mentioned?
Kafir.
Kafir is not an atheist. Kafir is somebody who knows there is Allah, but covers it up.
Well, if
That's why I
if
don't,
you
like the word.
if you say
But that's what
something,
Christians say an atheist is too.
See, that's the thing. I think it's the name kafir is an accusation more than a true title of being an atheist or a disbeliever.
I
They
agree.
will-
I agree.
yeah.
But I agree. Fair enough.
In
But
my
it
language,
covers-
it just calls them hypocrites. So
yeah, because kafir in Arabic as well.
Yeah.
If you
So
if you
those
if you
hypocrites
cover with
would-
something, you
hypocrite
deny
would-
it as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, done. Good. Let's go
Okay.
to the next one.
Surah
Surah
60.
60. Surah 60 is extremely confusing. This one has 3 abrogation. 60 verse 8, abrogated by the one right after it. 60 verse 10, abrogated by a later part of 60 verse 10. There you go, a verse that abrogates itself for free. And then 60 verse 11 is partially abrogated by 9:5. Yeah, doesn't end well. It's a very short.
this surah was kind of confusing.
It is confusing.
And I have a note
Yeah.
for the ayah 4. When we get there, if you have notes earlier, that I had to look up something about Abraham.
I wouldn't surprise if anybody had to look up stuff on this one. It is
Yeah.
confusing and it's very badly written, all of it as it is. So we can go 60 verse 1.
You who believe, do not take my enemies and yours as allies, showing them friendship when they have rejected the truth you have received and have driven you and the messenger out simply because you believe in God your Lord. Out simply because, that I'm already confused.
Right.
Not if you truly immigrated in order to strive for my cause and seek my good pleasure. You secretly show them friendship. I know all you conceal and all you reveal. But any of you who do this are straying from the right path.
Yep. So noting the backstory of this verse, reading the verse itself is quite illuminating. No friends with unbelievers, period. That's I think that's the takeaway of this verse.
Yes, and I add, do not be lenient and do not have that nice bridge between you. One time you are believers, then we talk to them, be friendly with them. So correct. So do not be lenient, be stiff, and make sure that when you believe, deny everything the other side have or wish to desire. Now,
I've got to mention a super chat from Reverend Dr. Emperor, 57 Mexican pesos, who says, remember, guys, the Quran is super duper clear.
Not
It
this
is.
one.
It
Not
is.
this-
I remember that there was a bit of a backstory to this verse. This should have happened after Muhammad made a. Was it after Hudaybiyah?
Yeah, I think there was some
Yeah.
sort of a military action being planned, and one of the
Yeah.
Medina people sent a message to Mecca telling them that, hey, these guys are coming and please put my stuff in a safe place.
Yeah.
The
He sent
guy.
him. Yeah. Sorry.
Yes, the guy named is Hatib ibn Abi Balta'a. He was a guy who lived in Mecca but was not from Quraysh. He wasn't from the tribe of Muhammad, and he had kids in Mecca. So what he did during the war, when Muhammad wanted to conquer Mecca, he sent a letter to his kids. It's like, well, Muhammad is coming with this 10,000s of army, so take cover and shelter your money and your belongings, just so you don't get killed. So someone interrupted that message, and it was found on a woman's in a possession of an older woman traveling to Mecca, and And when they received the paper, the guy was not just like someone who pretended to be a Muslim. He was a true believer. He just wanted to protect his kids. So he is getting being scolded by Allah and Muhammad for betraying Muhammad and betraying the notion that they will be in a big battle in Mecca. So, in a short summary of the story, basically.
Right. So we can go into the block between 6.2 and 6.10, 62 and 60.10. But do note, in this block, 60 verse 8 is abrogated by 60 verse 9. So when you read it, read the two together. And 60 verse 10 is abrogated by the latter part of 60 verse 10. So it kind of contradicts itself as it goes. And then 60 verse 11 is abrogated by 9.5. So no money exchange for women, just go 9.5 them all the way. So let's go into this flurry of confusion and let's come out the other side.
Yeah, in the ayah number 4, what I have is that what happened with Abraham is that he prayed for his father, but it turns out that he was an idolater. That's what it says on the tafsir, because he made enemies with God. So then he turned his back on his father. Because that's what Muslims are supposed to do. It's frowned upon to pray for forgiveness for others that are.
Yes. So don't pray for forgiveness for your atheist parents.
Right. And this is just a note I have. It's another one of those subtle jabs at Christianity, because it's frowned upon this type of idolatry, as they call it, that you associate others with God, and specifies that you're not supposed to say that God has sons. So it only says that, but it's sort of a jab at Christianity, subtle.
Yeah, it's not just subtle jabs at Christianity. It's the fact that where Islam started is a place where a lot of the Christian heretics spread, and the fact that Muhammad knew a lot of, or whoever wrote the book, knew a lot of the stories, and the major population there were Christian and Jews, and even when we say Christian at that time, it wasn't Catholicism or Orthodoxy. It just basically meant a follower of Christ, and there were multiple sects and beliefs about that Christ. Some of them believed that he was the Son of God, and some of them did not believe that. So Muhammad sided with the people who did not believe that Jesus was the Son of God, and he kept jabbing at them. So yeah.
Yes.
So you're not supposed to pray for your fellow atheists.
No.
You're not supposed to pray for anyone
upon.
who does not believe. So if someone does not believe in Allah, you are not supposed to pray to them or for them.
Does not believe correctly in Allah.
Yes. Sorry, I forgot that.
Right.
There's
so
a correct
do
way
not
to
believe
believe in
at
Allah.
all. You can't pray for them because they don't believe, right? And that's incorrect. Not believing is already incorrect.
But if you pray for any atheist, God will forgive you. Not to worry. Go ahead and pray if you want.
Yeah, but the atheist, yeah.
The atheist will not forgive you for praying for us.
No, we don't like it. 6.8 and 6.9. Let's look at them.
He does not forbid you to deal kindly and justly with anyone who has not fought you for your faith or driven you out of your homes. God loves the just, but God forbids you to take as allies those who have fought against you or your faith or driven you out of your homes and helped others to drive you out. Any of you who take them as allies will truly be wrongdoers.
Okay, so these two verses are kind of like mirror images linguistically, and it's extremely confusing. So God does not forbid you from being friends with those unbelievers or otherwise wrongly believers who did not fight you in religion and did not chase you out of your homes. So you can be friends with them and deal with them. And the other verse 9, it says, Allah forbids you from those who fought you in religion and turned you out of your homes, and showed up to turn you out, and you can turn your backs on them and don't befriend them. So it kind of say the same thing, but linguistically they're flipped out.
I it remind me of legal text, you know. So it's basically saying it's okay to be friends with the ones who are nice to us, and not okay to be. It's kind of saying illegal to be. It's not in a gray area. It is forbidden for Muslims to be friends with people who are against Islam. Um, so let's.
I agree. The both verses the same. I think Muhammad
Yeah.
said once, and after a while he didn't remember. He said he said something similar, but they kept them both. They couldn't remove one or the other. Correct.
Yeah, and it is obvious to say that the story comes again because he's going back to Mecca. He's conquering Mecca soon, not yet, but soon. And so they were talking about those people that lived in Mecca who did not do anything against Muhammad or his followers, but at the same time they didn't believe. So what should we do with them? At the same time, those are okay, but the other ones who fought against us and did this and did that, they are not okay to be friends with.
Yeah,
Or to deal with
these
them.
two verses are a dynamic duo that do the same thing. It's just like tag teaming in professional wrestling.
Yeah,
They do the same thing, but the language is different. So it's just confusing. This is not, it's abrogation because they say the same thing differently. I think that's why they made the list here. Okay, 610 abrogated by 610. This is the free.
Abrogated what? Oh,
It's,
right the previous one, right?
it's the end of it. Yeah, it abrogates itself. This is the perfect free abrogation verse. So
Right. So I have
610. Let's
I
look
have
at
two
it.
notes here.
Yeah.
One personal note and another question. The first, well, it's a personal note, is that the Muslims that have helped me with studying this, they often tell me that, well, not often, but a few times have told me that this ayah, the number 10, shows how Islam is better than Christianity because the mahar, that, am I pronouncing it correctly?
The
Mahar,
dowry.
yeah,
The dowry, yes.
the dowry is paid to the woman and instead of her father. In the Bible, you're supposed to give your shekels to her father. In here, in the case of marriage, you pay her, and it's not like, well, they told me it's not you're purchasing a wife. It's more like a customary gift, like showing that you can provide for her, and you pay her instead of her father.
yeah, but
That's
but what Muhammad says is you pay to have sex with your wife. That is in the hadith that you give them money. Basically, the money is to pay your way for the privilege of having sex with them. So yeah, it doesn't go to the dad, but it still does the same purpose. And the fact that the dowry or
yeah. It
the
looks like you're
mahar,
paying her. You're paying her for sex.
exactly, it is paying her for sex. I'm
But
gonna pull the hadith because a
yeah,
lot of
well,
Muslims ignore that. They will say, "Oh, you don't pay the father, you pay the woman." But why are
yeah.
you paying the woman?
Yeah, that's that. What I was told was you're not actually paying her for sex. It's just a customary gift. But that's
Yeah,
what I was told.
that's true. It could be. It's been interpreted as such, but that's not the point really here. Your dowry, as you can just give a split of a split of a date, and you can have that woman. While in Christianity, other religion, I suppose there is a ceiling. You cannot marry with a split of a date, or an iron ring. Okay, so that's the other problem here. There's no
Hmm.
limit. You could give her just a bunch of dates split, half of the date, and she's yours. So that's the problem. So okay, by all means, she can enjoy that if she wished to. You know.
Now, in my notes, I had a question about that because I couldn't understand this thing at all. In my notes, it said the Quran says it's so clear that all can understand it, but I doubt whether I do. Did it just say that Muslims can steal other people's wives if those women say they believe in Islam?
Yes.
Islamic studies info implies that yes, they could. We shall return the dowers of the women who have immigrated to us, and you return the dowers of the pagan wives of our men who have been left on your side. And then, of course, it complains about how the pagans refuse to keep their part of the bargain.
All right, I had a little bit of confusion there too. But what I got from other languages was this, that when women go from Mecca to Medina and they are tested, and they really are believers or whatever, you are to keep them. You must offer them asylum. If not, you are supposed to return them. And if it's the other way around, it doesn't happen. When
You
when
don't. You,
women,
no. If they believe,
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
okay.
Not to women. Sorry.
but
The
okay,
Hudaybiyah Treaty says very clearly, by anyone come from Quraysh to Muhammad, Muhammad need to return him or her, irrespective. But anyone came from Muhammad to Quraysh, they will keep him irrespective. That's one of
yeah,
the condition, and then that violated, totally violated. But Muhammad agreed to that. It's not women, anyone, any believers, anyone from Quraysh came to Muhammad, he has to return him or her, and the verse is not true. And
yeah,
anybody, sorry, but that's not a woman. It's anyone, man or woman, man or men. Okay,
uh-huh. Yeah,
that's
that was exactly going to be my next question. Why is this an exception to the Treaty of Hudaybiyah?
there's no
It was not.
exceptions. He agreed to that because he said, "I'm going to give in slightly because what's supposed to be a fight and all that." Then they realized, the Muslims realized they are not in a position to do that. They've accepted on the condition next year they will come and do the Umrah. They will visit and they'll come and nobody will interfere with them. And he accepted that condition. That's one of the treaties. But on the condition is he will return anybody come from Quraysh or from Mecca to him, but they will not return anybody come from Muhammad. That's the treaties there. I mean, it's very clear.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a question in here. Somebody, Kauser Masalawala. I know I butchered that. I apologize. Please ask panel members, does Sunni and Shia agree whether all wives of Prophet are mother of all mu'minin?
All
All
Mu'mineen. No, they
yeah.
do not. No, they do not agree. The
Mhm.
Shia deny Aisha, and they says that she is cursed. She should be in hell. No, they do not agree. The Sunnah says all the wives of the Prophet are the mother of the believers, but the Shia differ basically with Aisha. They denounce her, that she does not deserve to be even a believer, and they curse her and they said she will be in hell. Well, that's
Yeah,
what they said.
yes, and especially even in Shia study, they differ with not just the wives of Muhammad and the follower of Muhammad. So some of them will say anyone who raised uh, in the fight against Ali, the fourth caliph after Muhammad, anyone who fought against him is not a believer anymore and should not be taken seriously. And one of the battle was included was Aisha, who rode on a camel. It was a very famous battle. Um, but some some of the Shia go even further, say anyone who became a caliph before Ali is not accounted. So it differs who's Muslim and who's not, especially in the wives of Muhammad, because we have that division in Islam, early Islam, about who is and who isn't, and we have the big fitna that happened. And when the fitna happened, that big civil war in Islamic history, because for about 80 years about after Muhammad, there's 2 years of Ridda war, and then after that 80 years of war basically between different clans and sect in Islam. So whoever tells you that early Islam was united, they were not. They had different ideas and different practices.
Yeah, there was the other tribe in the southern part that kind of betrayed them or something. They were also sort of Muslim, maybe.
Oh,
Well,
there
maybe not
there
all
is
of them.
there is a lot of there is a lot of early Islamic schisms. So if you think about it, like early Christianities, there are different ideas of how to interpret the text. There was the same thing with Islam, because all those hadith and all the Quran was not the codex wasn't established yet. The canon was not established yet. So everyone had different beliefs. They believed in Muhammad and Allah and prayer, Hajj, like the main things, but they differed on the small details, and including the small details, who's gonna lead us after Muhammad. That's one of the details. Should we support a central power in Medina or not? That's another reason. Is there another? Is Muhammad the final messenger, or he is the like the seal of approval of the messengers? Because Khatam or Khatam, so it's a different interpretation, and it came out from different texts of the Quran and different hadiths.
Okay.
All right, we
So,
finished with that one.
well, 611 is abrogated by 9:5. So, if your wives were taken by the unbelievers, this is abrogated by 9:5. Go after them according to 9:5. No payments, no nothing. Right. So, yeah, it's
So in the number 12, why does it say kill their children? What's it trying to say?
Abortion.
No. It doesn't say they will not kill their children. That's what it says.
Abortions?
I don't
Uh,
think it's abortions. I think it's
uh,
after birth, burying of the children, which the
I,
Quran prohibits otherwise.
I think I think it might it is that it is the killing after birth, the infanticide, but I think it carries the abortion too. But that's
You think so?
my
You think so?
I I think there's a lot of interpretation that abortion is another sect,
No,
another act of
I
it.
don't. I don't think so. That wasn't known at that time at all. I don't think so.
I don't think أولاد hinna would qualify for a fetus.
Uh,
It would
that's the thing.
it would say arham or something like that.
See,
Correct.
that's
Correct.
see that's the thing.
As a pre-birth kind of load position, they
Yeah,
can get rid of it. I don't think it mentions it that way. I think La Taqtulna that the hinna is after birth, so they will not bury their kids alive.
okay.
That is most likely correct.
I think it's that, and I think it's carried to abortion too. I agree. It is the killing of afterbirth kids.
Yeah.
But I think it could contain and carries to abortion.
I disagree, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. We disagreed on the very clear Quran. There you go.
Honestly, on the tafsirs, it doesn't look like the people writing the tafsirs could agree on one point either.
No,
Yeah.
it's not very straightforward here. Anyway, so if they come and say we're going to be okay Muslims, then you need to accept them. Basically, if you want to boil it down to the bones of this verse, and we can certainly discuss whether لا تقتلن أولادهن is abortion or infanticide. I don't think it's abortion. I think it's infanticide.
Well, simply because abortion was not known at all. There was not practiced in the Quraysh or the Arab period at that time. Was not known. There used to be, well, in somebody miscarriage known, but not abortion. It was not known.
Yes,
It was not practiced.
and in the hadith, like in the Sūrah, when I think it was Aisha or somebody, one of Muhammad's wives was pregnant, and Ali opened the door on her, and she lost her pregnancy because of that.
Miscarriage, yes.
Right, and it's not considered a thing. Like it's not being talked about as, oh well, you just killed the infant. Right, it's not, does not come up in the story like that. So I don't think they actually talked about abortion actively in that in any way.
Reverend Dr. Emperor gave another 30 Mexican pesos. Thank you very much for that. I have another podcast scheduled for 4 minutes from now.
We
So,
have one verse left. Do we want to do anything about it?
I thought we just did that one.
Oh,
No, that
the
was
thir-
12.
that was
This is
well. There is 13. Anybody has a comment on it? Because I
13.
don't.
I have a comment, but I'm gonna make it quick. It's all versions say something different, and even Aaron's notes throw me off. So, I mean, we don't have to go in depth on that one. It's just that they all say something different.
Yeah, if Allah is angry with a certain people, aka unbelievers, disbelievers, believing in God wrongly, polytheists, whatever, then you don't.
I can't see any discrepancies. Very clear verse, I suppose.
Yeah, it's clear. It says if God doesn't like them, you can't like them either.
exactly.
Yeah, but it says something about the graves.
About
They
what?
will
Sorry?
die in the graves. They belong to the grave.
Oh yeah. This is a metaphor. A metaphor is like people. You're gonna be desperate that they will never get back what they wish for, the same as when you wish that the dead will come back to them. That's a metaphor.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay, Peter, I'm going to need you to take us out now because I apologize. I thought that we've been closing up in 2 hours, and so if I schedule one for an hour later, that would be plenty of room. Apparently, not quite.
Yeah. Aaron,
Sorry,
shall I
Aaron.
send you an email for the interview timing, you and I?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, what time would suit you best? Another 2 weeks or so?
Anytime next week. I have almost all of next week is open.
What about in a couple of weeks' time?
That one will be difficult because I'll be in Mexico.
So 10 days?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I'm gonna be in Mexico for like a week.
All right. So,
Yes. All right. Night, everybody.